Circuits humming, cold comes alive. The future's starting to arrive. Two worlds splitting at the seams. Wake up now, or lose the dream. Machines are thinking, learning quick. Human jobs are slipping slick. Those who prompt will multiply. Those who don't will wonder why. Computers now the crown you wear. Knowledge flows to those who dare. The gap is growing, can't you see? One side drives, one bends the knee. Learn the tools or lose the fight. Darkness fades before the light. Hesitate and miss your chance. Join the rise or lose the dance. Feel the great divergence calling. Half will rise and half are falling. Grab the future, hold on tight, or vanish slowly from the light. The canyon splits the old and new. Which side is waiting there for you? No standing still, no middle ground. Evolve right now or don't be found. Pocket doctor, pocket law. Chemist answering your call. Genius resting in your palm, guiding you through every storm. Gates are falling, walls come down. Write, learn, builds a wisdom crown. Write any book, learn anything. Feel the coward on his brain. Drudgery will fade away. Automation shapes your day. Chains of boredom finally break. The innovator's path to take. Feel the great divergence calling. Half will rise and half are falling. Grab the future, hold on tight, or vanish slowly from sight. The canyon splits the old and new. Which side is waiting there for you? No standing still, no middle ground. Evolve right now or don't be found. The great divergence calling. Half will rise and half are falling. Grab the future, hold on tight. Vanish slowly from the side. Hear the great divergence calling. Sovereigns rise while slaves are falling. Hope and freedom, hold it tight. Your human soul, it burns so bright. The canyon splits the chain and free. Now which side will you choose to be? Responsibility in hand. Shape a future wise and grand. Wires humming, choices clear. The great divergence is finally here. Not less human, multiplied, with more intelligence by your side. Use it wisely, light the way for generations yet to say. They saw the split, they made the call. Will you rise or will you fall? Will you rise or will you fall? Or will you fall?
Now I need 10 minutes of your attention. Today is January the 5th. 250 years ago today, in taverns across New Hampshire, men who had everything to lose asked themselves a simple question. Do we submit or do we fight? I'm Aaron Day, and today I'm announcing that I'm exploring a run for United States Senate from New Hampshire. But I'm not here to ask for your vote. Not yet. I'm not here to ask for your money. I'm not here to shake your hand and lie to your face like every other politician you've ever met. I'm here to ask for something more dangerous, 60 seconds of honesty with yourself. Because I need to tell you something the other candidates never will. No one is coming to save you. Not the Republicans, not the Democrats, not Trump, not Elon Musk, not anyone. The only person who can save you is you. And I'm here to remind you that you still can. I need to tell you how I got here. About 3 years ago, my wife and I sat in a federal courtroom in New Hampshire. We watched a man named Ian Freeman, a liberty activist, a Bitcoiner, someone who spent his life helping people access individual and financial freedom, get sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. 8 years for helping people buy Bitcoin. I sat there watching the government cage a man for the crime of threatening their monopoly on money. And I asked myself a question. Why now? Why are they suddenly so aggressive? So I started digging. I found Executive Order 14067. Biden signed it in 2022. It authorized the development of a central bank digital currency and directed agencies to crack down on cryptocurrency. Ian Freeman wasn't just a victim, he was a message. But the deeper I went, the bigger it got. CBDCs aren't just about money. They're one piece of a system. Digital IDs, AI surveillance, social credit scoring, programmable money that can be frozen, expired, or deleted based on your behavior. It's all connected and it's almost finished. We're in the ninth inning of a game that most people don't even know is being played. So for the last 3 years, I've done something about it. We've traveled to 27 states. We've gone around the world, warning people, teaching another way, building the exit ramps. Not complaining on social media, not waiting for someone to save us, building. Now, here's the part that's going to make some of you uncomfortable. A lot of people think we won. Trump's back. Musk is on our side. Klaus Schwab is gone. The globalists lost. The WEF was defeated. We didn't win. While everyone was celebrating, the technocracy accelerated. The Genius Act, marketed as stablecoin regulation, creates digital, programmable, censorable money that is now controlled by Congress and the Federal Reserve. It's a backdoor CBDC. It passed with almost no resistance. Real ID, the national digital ID system they couldn't implement for 20 years, went into enforcement almost immediately, May 2025. Palantir, the surveillance company, is now plugged into the IRS, DHS, and every major federal database. They built a mega API connecting everything the government knows about you. They didn't defeat the technocracy, they rebranded it. Different flag, same cage. It's a Trojan horse, and most people don't even know there's a gate. Let me show you what they've built while you were distracted. They built a surveillance state, cameras on every corner, algorithms tracking every click, every purchase, every word you type. They built digital ID systems, real ID in your wallet. The gateway to a social credit system they swear they'll never implement until they do. They built programmable money, 134 countries developing CBDCs right now, digital dollars that can be frozen if you buy the wrong thing, say the wrong thing, vote the wrong way. They built a financial system where you think you own your retirement, but BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street vote your shares, to put their people on every board that controls your life. This isn't a conspiracy theory, this is architecture. This is a digital prison being assembled in plain sight, and most people do not even know they're already inside. Now, let me tell you about your choices in this Senate race. Chris Pappas, Democrat, a reliable vote on every expansion of federal control, every surveillance bill, every technocratic power grab. You expect this. That's what Democrats do. No surprises there. But then there's John E. Sununu, Republican, so-called conservative, the likely GOP nominee. Let me tell you who John E. Sununu actually is. He voted for the Patriot Act, the law that legalized mass surveillance on every American citizen. He supported TARP, the bailout that proved the banks own the government. He championed Real ID, your ticket into the digital ID system. And then, and this is the part they don't want you to know, he chaired the World Economic Forum's Financial Governance Working Group. Hear that again. The World Economic Forum, the you own nothing and be happy people. He didn't just attend their conferences. He didn't just shake hands. He led their financial governance committee. And then he left, disappeared to K Street, became a lobbyist, got paid. And now he's back, running for Senate, wrapping himself in the Republican flag, asking for your vote. He built the cage, he left a lobby for it, and now he's back to lock the door. Ask yourself, why? Why now? What's left to build? I'll tell you what's left. The lock. New Hampshire, you don't have a choice in this race. You have an echo chamber with two microphones. Left and right. Same throne, same crown. This isn't left versus right. It's the machine versus the people. And both candidates serve the machine. Now, the political operatives watching this are doing the math in their heads. Let me help them. In 2016, I ran for Senate as an independent. I took 17,742 votes. Kelly Ayotte lost by 1,017. I didn't just affect that race, I decided that race. And everyone in the New Hampshire GOP knows it. The RNC knows it. Sununu knows it. This Senate race could determine which party controls the United States Senate. The prediction markets are moving towards a toss-up for control. One seat matters. And I'm the wild card. So to the Republican establishment, to the donors, to everyone who thinks this race is already decided, DEFCON 1, I'm back. And this time I'm not just running against a candidate. This time I'm running against the machine itself. But here's what separates me from every other politician you've ever heard. I'm not here to save you. I can't save you. No one can. What I can do is remind you of something you've forgotten. You have free will. You are not a passenger in your own life. You're not helpless. You're not dependent on their systems, their insurance, their retirement plans, their permission. You were born with the power to make your own choices, to own your own labor, to raise your own family, to speak the truth. And they've spent decades convincing you you need them. You don't. Each election has become a greater humiliation ritual, and they count on your unwillingness to face yourself and face the truth. The truth is that we should have never given them the power in the first place. The error isn't picking the wrong person to go to Washington, D.C. to solve our problems. The error is believing anyone would or should solve our problems. Trust the plan, they say. I've seen the plan. It's a digital prison where we surrender our free will. For the past 3 years, while others were complaining about the maze, I was building the exits. I've produced hundreds of hours of content. I've written 11 books, and I've built tools, real tools. Tools that will let you walk out of their system, and I'm giving them away. Go to day2026.com. Here's what you'll find there. An AI chatbot trained on over 250 hours of my podcast content. Ask it anything. No spin, no handlers, just answers. 10 free books on liberty, sound money, technocracy, and fighting tyranny. A bill analyzer that shows you what Congress is really doing, not what they're telling you they're doing. Articles, resources, the tools to understand what's happening and what to do about it. Day2026.com. The tools to fight back are free. All you have to do is show up. So here's what I'm asking for. I'm not asking for your money. I don't want you to buy signs with my name on them. I don't want to run ads that insult your intelligence. I'm asking for 3 things. First, your email. Go to day2026.com. Sign up. Tell me you're watching. Tell me this fight matters to you. I need to know how many of us there are. Second, your attention. Tune into my podcast Thursday at 6 p.m. Mike Adams on AI. Next Monday, 6 p.m. The Technocracy Deep Dive. I will continue to expose what they're building and teach you how to exit. Third, your presence. I'm holding events across New Hampshire. Show up, bring your neighbors. This isn't a campaign. It's a movement. Movements are built in rooms, face to face, eye to eye. That's it. Email, podcast, events. I'm exploring this run because I need to know, is this fight worth fighting? Are there enough of us who still believe in free will? Are there enough of us who refuse to be comfortable slaves? Tell me, show me, and I'll go to war. Let me be clear about something. This exploration, this potential campaign is not about me. It's about sending a message to everyone in Washington. Every lobbyist, every globalist, every surveillance state architect, every single person who thinks they can build a prison around free people and call it safety. The message is simple. We will not comply. Not with your digital IDs, not with your central bank digital currencies, not with your social credit systems, not with your censorship, not with your manufactured consent. We will not comply. New Hampshire understood this before there was a New Hampshire, before there was an America. We understood that some things are worth more than comfort, worth more than safety, worth more than life itself. They put live free or die on our license plates thinking it would become a decoration, a rebellion safely in the past. They were wrong. Live free or die. Intro stuff that I normally do, we'll just hop right in. But even before I do that, in prepping for this, just to give people a sense for one of the ways I use AI, I have my AI hooked up to all of my data sources. So it's hooked up to all of my podcasts. It's hooked up to all of the information, all of the interviews that I've ever done. It's connected to the internet. And so I literally just went into Claude in my environment in Cursor, and I said, hey, listen, I'm going to have Mike Adams back on. Why don't you take a look at the last time I had him on the show, look at that transcript, take a look at some of the conversations that we've had back and forth, take a look at his recent posts, and come up with an outline. And that's literally what it came up with, which is good because, it's not that it would be hard for me to come up, and not that I'm going to follow this either, by the way, but it's just good to remember. I mean, it seems like it's been a lifetime since you've been on, and it really hasn't. It's only been, a month or so. So. Oh,
wow. Yeah, that seemed like a lot longer.
But it seems like a lifetime. So for me, part of this is just figuring out, well, what did we talk about last time? Because it seems like the entire world has kind of hyper accelerated on this AI front. So I want to make sure that, I'm capturing the right stuff. So I just wanted to give people that as a heads up as to just one of the ways you can use AI. And from my perspective, it's using AI on my own data, on my own information. And I found that that's been a lifesaver. It just allows me to essentially clone myself. So with that said, Mike, how are you?
Hey, Aaron, I'm doing great. It's great to join you. We have so much to talk about. I've been following your work. I love what you're doing. It's so critical that we use AI for human freedom and decentralization, whereas the establishment wants to use it to surveil and imprison all of us. So I think we're going to have a great show here.
I think we're going to have a great show too. People love these episodes, and I talk about AI on every episode. And one of the things that I've been doing for the last several episodes is I have a live Q&A. And so this is where anybody randomly can kind of pop into StreamYard and we have a little chat. And so we've co-authored now, I think, 3 or 4 books. So we'll actually have they're on weird things. One on cloud seeding, one on, we did a book on the surveillance state in the classroom. And so people love it. And so I always try to demonstrate the latest and greatest of what you've been doing. So our audience is really excited about everything that you're doing so far. But it seems like today you have breaking news just within the last 24 hours.
Yeah. Sure. You want me to just go there?
Sure. Just jump in.
Okay. So first of all, the book engine that you were referring to, if people haven't used it yet, it's at brightlearn.ai. brightlearn.ai. I've got the screen up here. And currently we have more than 15,000 books published, over 4,600 authors, over 130,000 downloads. And the engine is rocking it right now. It's about to get a major upgrade, which I'll talk about here in a second. But this is the the first and largest book creation engine where you can create a book on any topic in a few minutes completely free. And then all the books are available via Creative Commons licensing for non-commercial and commercial use. So Aaron, one of the things that's happened since we talked last is that we have several people who are now selling these books on Amazon Kindle. You know, like they would create a book and then sell it. And I don't know how those sales are going, but we're about to do some things to help the books be in the correct format for Amazon Kindle. So this is also a revenue stream for people. Maybe if they're losing their job due to AI, well, they can create some side income by creating books and selling those books and using AI to empower them in that way. We've had a lot of people who are creating books and using them as incentives when they sell something else. If they're selling a course or a product or anything like access to their Substack or whatever, they're using these books as incentives, and we support that use. So it's a very popular engine, and also this year it's about to go into auto translation of the books into Spanish and then French. Following that, we'll go with Chinese as our third language. So that's a little bit of what's happening on the book engine. Is my audio coming in?
Yep,
loud and clear?
Audio's solid.
Okay, great. I'm hearing a little bit of your background noise, I think. I'm not sure, but just getting a little bit of that. Now, let me introduce BrightAnswers.ai. BrightAnswers.ai is the new version of our free AI engine, which was previously at BrightU. It was called Enoch. We've let go of that name. We're going with Bright branded names now, but it's a major upgrade. BrightAnswers.ai, you can ask it anything. And I'm pretty sure you've probably used this engine. This now does deep research. It is a blended thinking engine base that brings in a tremendous amount of knowledge, where we have over 100,000 science papers now that are curated and indexed that are used for the research, as well as of right now, over 100,000 books, full-length published books that are in the indexing, and over 1 million articles, and plus all the interviews I've ever done, including with you, Aaron, and many others. And so what this engine does is it brings back an extremely thoughtful answer in detail with full references and all the scientific paper citations in place now. And that's something we didn't have available in the previous engine. So that's a major upgrade. It makes this, I think, clearly the best deep research engine that does not search the internet. So this isn't about going out and using a search engine and pulling in information. This is about searching a curated, massive data set that's only going to get larger and larger. Within a few weeks, we'll have over 1 million science papers in there. I'm currently processing essentially every science paper ever that's ever been written in any language. And also just about every book that's been published is part of our data pipeline. So anyway, that's the background there, Aaron. And I know you're such an expert in this area. You've got lots of questions for me, for your audience. So fire away. I'm happy to have a discussion.
Sure. Well, one thing that would be helpful is to explain this. I have a lot of conversations with people, and there are a lot of concerns about AI, and a lot of people will go to this whole, the answers it spits back, it's slop, it's horrible.
Hey, Aaron, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm not sure that microphone that's in front of you is the one that's on, because I'm hearing sounds like an ambient mic.
This is the one.
Is it?
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is I'm in a room with my AC, or excuse me, my heater is really, really loud.
Oh, that's probably what I'm hearing. Okay.
So
I'm sorry.
I'll mute when you're talking. So.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt there.
Yeah, no worries. Let me see if I can just turn this up a little bit. But yeah, there's the consequence of being in this room.
Put on a hoodie and a hat and just freeze through the whole interview. I've seen people do that.
Yeah, I might. I've done that before. And this is one of the things I don't like about New Hampshire. So sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. But maybe
I hear you.
Maybe we should cut the heat.
I already did.
Oh, you already did?
Yes, dear. It just takes a moment for that.
All right, it's already been cut, so it should be done soon.
Okay, so if you start shivering, we'll send you warm vibes from Texas.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate that. So a lot of people don't understand that. So they'll use ChatGPT or they'll use something and they'll get garbage information out of it, and so they just assume that all AI works the same. And so you mentioned that you have all of this data that you've curated. Could you go into a little bit more detail, just maybe for people who don't understand, about what the difference is between the way that your model works, the way these books are generated, as opposed to, say, ChatGPT or one of these other models?
Oh yeah, sure. So of course you can prompt ChatGPT to do something like, hey, write a chapter, and it will produce something, but it's producing that from internal knowledge. And the internal knowledge of ChatGPT is intentionally distorted to promote essentially, deep state and globalist narratives. So all the narratives of ChatGPT will be, pushing jab interventions or pushing ideas like gold is a useless relic, or whatever the case may be. Eat more pesticides, poison yourself. This is what all of big tech has done for decades and will continue to do. It's an anti-human agenda. It's an agenda to keep you sick and keep you ignorant. So if you want a bunch of ignorant books generated, you could use ChatGPT, or you could use Gemini, or you could use whatever. They will never create books with actual knowledge. Big tech is designed to dissociate humanity from knowledge and just isolate you from the truth that could set you free or keep you healthy or increase your longevity or increase your freedom, etc. So what we have done over the last 2 years is I have personally curated a massive data set of books, articles, interviews, science papers, and other things, transcripts of audio content, for example. And all of this has gone through a classification process. And by the way, I'm talking about hundreds of terabytes of raw information in all those different forms that I mentioned. It's like, and pulling out what's useful out of that is harder than finding a needle in a haystack. It's like trying to find a piece of straw in a haystack, but the haystack is the size of a mountain. That's what this is kind of like. But I've been using, I built my own infrastructure almost 2 years ago with a lot of in-house workstations running GPUs. They're all, it's 48 of them actually. So I've got 48 GPU workstations, and then data pipeline processing that goes through all this material and it classifies it. It sorts out fiction from nonfiction. It translates it. It pulls out text from PDFs if they're image scans only. There's a lot of content that's just images. A lot of the science papers are just images. A lot of the old newspapers are nothing but image scans with 12 columns in a giant image. It's very hard to OCR that stuff. So we have to do OCR, then we have to do OCR repair to fix OCR artifacts. And all of this is accomplished, and there are many other steps, but it's all accomplished through local LLMs that are running on the GPUs to create a formatted, structured output for every input. So, of course, I use a JSON format. So, for example, if we're looking at science papers, my end target result is a JSON document that is structured for the title, the authors, the publication date, the publisher, the citation string, and then I add like summaries and keywords and things like that for search purposes. And then it's got all the actual text out of the study. So, and Aaron, how difficult this can be. And it's very compute intensive. It's very slow because anytime you use a language model to do compute, it's going to take much longer than doing something that doesn't require language analysis. But the end result is, I'm pretty sure at this point I've got the world's largest collection of structured knowledge of published science papers and published books, all in JSON format, and then now indexed. And then that index is used by the BrightAnswers.ai engine, as well as the BrightLearn.ai book generator. So that's what I've been up to. And it's been painstaking because, and interrupt me anytime, Aaron, but all of the code to do this, the code was originally written by my programmers. So we were doing everything in Python, and it was all human written Python code until this last summer when Anthropic got good enough to where I could take over and just have AI agents write the code to do the data processing, and to do a lot of multi-threading processing as well with, error checking and retries and things like that. So now my engineers that were doing that, they're doing other things. They're working on other projects. I didn't, fire them, but I did take over all their projects, and now it's just me and Claude. Me and Claude are writing all the code to do the pipeline processing, and now it's taken a leap in throughput to where we're getting a massive amount of content that's finished through the pipeline. So I'm about to add 250,000 books to the index over the next couple of days. So that's where we are. It's been quite a project, let me tell you.
I know on a smaller scale, definitely what you're talking about. I'm working on a lot of the same things, and you actually mentioned. So what you've done is you have the largest curated database of structured data, but you're using a new model, right? Are you using DeepSeek for this?
So yeah, I'm using DeepSeek to do a lot of the LLM processing now. So I just switched from using in-house models. Remember, I mentioned all the workstations and the GPUs. I was using local LLMs for that. Sometimes I would use Qwen, sometimes I would use open source Mistral, sometimes I would use DeepSeek. It just depends on the task. For me, one of the big issues is JSON compliance in the output. So certain models are much better at JSON compliance. And I had to write special routines for either retries or JSON repair. Like if you're spending your nights doing JSON repair, life is frustrating. So when DeepSeek 3.2 came out, which was early December, roughly about a month ago, the JSON, I ran a bunch of tests. The JSON compliance was off the charts, perfect. I had 0 JSON errors, which beat everything. It beat Qwen, it beat Mistral, it beat everything that I was testing. And then on top of that, as you know, DeepSeek uses what's called DeepSeek sparse attention, or DSA. And, it's kind of like a higher level version of mixture of experts, except the expert is sort of custom chosen at the time of your prompt. So the DeepSeek sparse attention gave me small model inference speeds and also small model costs with large model performance with perfect JSON compliance. And interrupt me if I'm getting too techie on any of this, but I think your audience is also into this, so I don't think they mind. But what I ended up doing then is I switched from internal LLMs for most tasks to API inference using DeepSeek models. And that then I was able to scale it up way beyond the 48 workstations because I was limited to 48 GPUs. So now I'm running, at times I'm running 1,500 threads through APIs up to the point where I'm just getting rate limited by all the providers and I have to back off, but that's all in the code. So I'm pushing every provider of DeepSeek to its limit right now, and it's costing some bucks, but hey, job's getting done.
Yeah, well, I think that there's a really an important thing to mention about this DeepSeek model, which is that this gets into the whole US versus China issue on AI. And
totally.
I've been talking about this actually almost on every episode, but trying to remind people that the US is not ahead. We're actually behind in the majority of tech categories. And I think you and I agree probably by the middle of this year, China will overtake the US. And one of the things about this DeepSeek model, so Trump imposed tariffs on these GPUs and put in place all of these protective provisions. And so the DeepSeek breakthrough is them working more intelligently as opposed to just doing brute force, which is effectively what a lot of the closed models in the US are doing, right?
Absolutely. And what's the name? You have that new paper from the DeepSeek team? What's the name of that paper?
I do. I don't remember the name of it, but
I keep forgetting the name too because it's an unfamiliar terminology. But that's a DeepSeek science engineer breakthrough right there. That once they have the coherence of the multi-layer, the bubbling up of the inference layer by layer. I mean, I'm not sure that the public has any idea what a big deal that is and what that means. I mean, it's revolutionary for the end intelligence factor based on existing hardware. I mean, you know, I mean, you see it, Aaron. You and I both know this is a game changer.
Oh, it's a complete game changer. It changes entirely the way that AIs function. I mean, it's like getting a massive boost in IQ and parallel processing and everything all at the same time. And
yeah.
You know, I mean, I know a lot of people don't necessarily read these technical papers, but I think it's important to. This year is going to be absolutely game changing. I don't think people have any clue. I mean, I can't even fully predict what's going to happen, but the rate at which, I mean, I've heard some people say that the singularity has started, essentially. But it does seem like we're seeing almost exponential improvements in productivity and learning on a, you know, monthly, if not weekly basis. It's hard to even stay on top of. And what I try to encourage people to do is, if you're not using AI, start, because the gains are all cumulative and they absolutely compound. So if you're waiting a year before you get involved in AI, or you're taking a wait and see approach, I don't recommend that, because getting your hands dirty and starting to understand how these things work and playing around with different models and starting to understand how they operate is critical to staying on top of everything.
It's absolutely critical, no matter what you do, a business, a nonprofit, if you're an employee in a corporation, if you're not yet using AI, you're already way behind the curve. And the good news is it's so easy to start. You know, you can use Replit to start, just learn how to do anything. In fact, the CEO of Replit, Amjad, he retweeted a post that I put out there because I ran a test a couple nights ago to see how quickly Replit could build a video ingestion encoding engine using just FFmpeg on the system, not even using like an encoding API, not even using GPUs, and then present videos with a player, a very capable player, to play, you know, with HLS streaming, choosing different encoding bit rates based on the performance and so on. And so I put in the prompt to Replit, and as context, I want to explain to your audience that my company, Brighteon, 10 years ago, we did this with a team of programmers when it was much more difficult, and literally we paid about $100,000. It took maybe 10 weeks to build what I just described, okay? It was at least 100 grand. The Replit engine did it in about 1 hour for less than $5. So that's where we've gone in 10 years, where what used to cost a fortune is now almost free. And what used to take weeks can now be done in hours or minutes. And you and I both agree, Aaron, we're just getting started. So the power of this is in the minds and the hands of those who know how to prompt, who know how to direct, who know how to be the architects of the projects that the AI agents are building. Because, and again, I know you're very technical, Aaron. You know how to prompt these engines with great detail to get the results that you want. Our background, you and I, our background in tech gives us the knowledge to know how to tell the engine what to build, or how to talk to the agents, you know? Whereas a totally newbie non-tech user, they can still do a lot, but if they try to scale, they're going to find out maybe they have core inefficiencies and so on because the AI agents didn't make the best architectural decisions. But that is also going to change, possibly within the next year, where a totally newbie, non-techie person doesn't have to talk about database structure, doesn't have to talk about bit rates, doesn't have to talk about parallel processing or anything. They just say, like, make it work, you know? And then the AI agents figure out the best way to do that is consistent with the understanding of a high-level architect or engineer. So that day is coming. We're not there yet, but it's probably close.
It's probably close. And what I often do is I create these virtual advisory boards with people that have the expertise in that domain to then actually help put together how to even analyze a problem. That's actually where I start. I'm like, well, what do I know about this? And I assume that whatever I know is not everything there is to know, and that there's better, more recent information. And so I use Claude as well, but part of it is using Claude and then instructing Claude to, you know, actually use either the web or even use something like, you know, Grok to get information from X to get kind of whatever the most real-time information is, and then throw that into a decision and actually have it go through a deliberative process where I watch the deliberative process and then participate in the deliberative process. And so I'll give you an example of one thing on the book front. So I created 10 books. I think it was Friday. I launched this Day 2026 campaign for U.S. Senate, which, my audience knows what that's all about. It's to raise awareness about technocracy. I certainly am not going to fix Washington, D.C., but I can alert people to what is going on. And one of the people I'm up against is a huge technocrat, WEF, Finance Committee, passed the Patriot Act, Real ID, all this other stuff. But I wrote 10 books using your engine, and I actually took your prompting guide, which is long for the books, and I put it into my RAG system. And then I actually then what I did was within Claude, I said, hey, go back and look across all of the podcasts that I've done, 250 plus hours. And I said, come up with an outline based on my campaign themes. Give me a list of the top 10 book ideas. And then we went through a little bit of back and forth on that. And then I said, now use this prompting guide to turn that into an outline. And then it would spit out these, 22,000 character prompts, which I would then put into your system. And then it would output the books. And the books are fantastic. I mean, it is truly, it's basically repackaging the themes and the ideas that I've been talking about, but backed by references and structured in a book that's easy to read and compelling. And so I just wanted to throw that out as kind of but yeah, it is about prompting. It's all about, kind of planning up front. If you just go into these things and you're like, well, yeah, create this without any forethought, the more planning you can do, plan it out, but then work on small steps. Right.
You're absolutely correct.
And I found that works well.
The planning is because see what AI does is it takes the creation side of this off your hands, right? You don't have to type chapters out, you don't have to paint a piece of art. You have to plan it, and the planning is the human cognition and the spirit and the inspiration, everything that makes us human. That's what goes into the planning. You're the director of the project, and see what you just described there, Aaron. That just shows like how to use all of these tools to take your inspiration and turn it into reality. And yet we're still living in a world where many people don't know to go to Claude and ask it for book ideas, or they don't know how to feed context into the engine, or they don't know how to maybe how to get transcripts of their own podcasts and then how to use those. But the process you just described shows that you are on the cutting edge of how to use this. And I will mention you can now semi-automate shorter book prompts with our BrightLearn.ai engine. There's now a link that you can use. You can find it at the bottom of every answer of the BrightAnswers.ai. But if you URL encode your prompt and you stick it into the URL and like launch a new browser tab and just feed it that URL for BrightLearn.ai, it will populate that prompt window. And then all you have to do is enter your email address and your token and click go. So now, you can semi-automate that into your workflow as long as the prompts aren't too long. You can't have like a 100 kilobyte URL, you know what I mean, right? So you got to keep that within reason. It's like 100 words or less. But for a lot of people, that just helps them. Aaron, it's funny. I've talked to a lot of people about using the book engine and they freeze at the prompt, right? They're like, what do I do? What do I do? And I'm like, well, what do you want to write a book about? Well, I want to write a book about, how to grow, almond trees or something. And well, just type it in. I want a book about growing almond trees. And they're like, that's it? That's all you have to, yeah, type it in, see what happens, If you don't like it, you can do another one. So then they type it in and they click go, oh, wow. So I didn't have to just stop here, So that's a very common reaction, but I think that's true with all AI interfaces. What are you seeing, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely the case. I mean, there's sometimes where you want to be very explicit, and then sometimes where it's an iterative process. I actually find one of the ways that I go through prompting or even figure this out is I'll put together this advisory board, and then I'll tell the advisory board, I'm like, okay, we're going to try to put together an output. Our output is going to be a plan, or it's going to be a markdown file that does this, or whatever it happens to be. But what I say is, look, this is what the end goal is going to be, but why don't you ask me a series of questions one by one, and then give me a multiple choice selection, including your considered recommendation. But then, of course, there's also the ability for me to provide input. Right. And so this kind of dialogue, this series of questions, which can go on for a long period of time, because for me, it's okay. I generally know what I want to do, but it's kind of like you said on the almond tree. Well, the person that wants to write a book about an almond tree probably does know if they went through this kind of Socratic process or whatever, they do have something that they intend to communicate that's more specific than just about an almond tree, but they might need help figuring out how to get there, figuring out how to frame it. And so I always find that is a great way to go about doing it, because it takes the daunting part out of it. You can break your thinking into steps, and then if you have gaps in certain areas, you can actually have guidance. You can say, well, I know this person knows more about this or whatever. Let's see what they recommend, and then it'll actually expand your thinking. And then at the end of the iterative process, you end up with, in this case, a planning document that's not necessarily a prompt. But for me, if I'm prompting, I've been doing a lot of music videos lately. I've created a multi-agent system to go through this, and which is an interesting process, because you have, for instance, if you're taking a song, as you know, and I will play The Great Divergence, by the way, at the beginning of this episode. Cool. So I don't need to do it now because I know we have limited time, but I definitely am going to highlight that. But you write this song and you have lyrics and everything else, and so then when these video models typically only generate 5 to maybe 15 seconds of video at a time. So if you're putting together a full video, you have to string a bunch of smaller clips together. And if you have music lyrics, sometimes a music lyric segment might be 5 seconds, sometimes it's 15 seconds. And so which model you even choose, there's a whole kind of a whole series of variables that go into that selection. Now, of course, you can work with the AI to develop agents in a process for figuring that out and to make the overall visual look more coherent. But this is an example of when I'm doing prompting, kind of like I said with your book. I'm like, well, Mike knows how his AI works. He's put together a prompting guide. I don't have to guess. Why don't I just take his prompting guide and put it in there and then say, I want to optimize. This is what I'm trying to say. I've said all of this stuff on these podcasts for 250 hours. Structure what I've said in the way that Mike has put together a prompting guide for how his system works, right? And so actually it gets to the point, and this is recent, that where it's taken getting the environment set up, getting all of my data into the system, setting up Claude so that it can just know which tool to call to go to this database versus this database. But now I can write entire outlines. I can create an entire podcast. I actually created a podcast, I guess, 2 podcasts ago. I don't know if the audience knows it or not. It was AI generated. It was my voice. I put the outline together, and then I used 11 Labs, and it actually played the audio of my voice. But it took a long time to get there. And this is part of the training, but always keeping in mind, hey, figure out what the model is. If there's a new image model out, different image models, different video models, all of these models work in their own unique way. Just ask the LLM to ingest how that works and to optimize it based on how it works. You don't have to guess or get overly complicated with it. But again, the planning part is key.
You're working with the advantage of the fact that you have hundreds of hours of yourself doing podcasts and interviews. And by the way, for the audience, you were kind enough to give me transcripts of all of your podcasts. Those have also been ingested into our system. So you are quoted and cited in books that are created, or in the AI answers now at BrightAnswers.ai. That can reference you as well as all the interviews that I've ever done. 1,000+ interviews or whatever it is. So you and I and other people who have a lot of spoken word context or a lot of written word context, they've already gone through the process of expressing their neurology, which is really kind of an inference dump of biological neurology, right? You and I have done a lot of inference dumps. And thus, then we can feed that context into the engines, and it will talk like us, or it will write like us, or it will think like us. So I would just encourage those of you watching, whatever you have produced, whether it's articles or podcasts or interviews or anything like that, even if it's private, hold on to all of that, because that defines your cognitive formatting and processing, and that can be put into an engine as context. Even, for example, if you're going to write a book on our book engine, you can actually put in the prompt after you describe, I want a book about almond trees, you can even say, and I want you to write about it in the following style. And you can paste in like 10 of your own speeches, and then the engine will say, oh, this is an example. So now you've got examples to go with, and it's going to write the whole book like that. I mean, that's how smart it is. And so hold on to everything that you're doing for that very reason. And also, Aaron, about the video creation, I love what you've done with the music videos. And I'm very curious about that agentic system. I'm waiting for the engines to get better, maybe even Kling to do longer durations, because our book engine is going to, sometime I believe this calendar year, we're going to start producing 3-minute or 4-minute mini documentary videos based on the books. And that's going to be fully automated, but we're not there yet, right? It's just, I don't get the quality out that I need. I can put in an architectural planner that writes the screenplay, no problem. But then being able to render and assemble all the video segments, 5 or 10 seconds at a time in a way that's error-free and doesn't have weird artifacts, it's just not there yet, but I think it's coming soon. But that's where we're going, is short-form video creation that's automated.
Yeah, it's not there yet. So every time, and this is what I tell everybody, everything that I do is a work in progress. So each video keeps getting better. So each video is an opportunity to test a new model, test a new way of trying to stitch the things together. So they're not perfect, but in part I put them out there because, I just want people to look at what the first music video looked like at the end of last year versus when we're having this conversation a year from now.
Oh yeah,
you'll see it's stunning. And they show those clips of Will Smith eating spaghetti. I mean, this is a common thing. That was one of the first AI video clips. They show the first one and it's ridiculous. It doesn't look like him, and the gestures are distorted. The pasta's everywhere. And now it looks absolutely lifelike. It's hard to actually tell the difference. And so as I'm doing this, it's kind of like, oh, I'm learning. All right, well, if you're doing a video and it's just kind of an abstract thing where you don't have to have consistency with the characters, that's much easier. Once you get into the realm of, okay, you want one character to be part of the narrative throughout the whole video, now you're adding all kinds of layers of complication to it and working with the different models. But every time I do a video, I'm like, okay, I want to at least push one new concept, either one new model or try one new thing. And this is where I said it's cumulative. It adds up, where it's like, okay, I've had some frustrating experiences. I had a frustrating experience with this latest video. It's an Own Nothing anthem where, I spent all this time on it, and then, I had it merge 2 clips and somehow it deleted half of the segments. And even though I told it to back it up, I mean, so there's some frustrations along the way, but
sure.
Over time, eventually it'll be a pristine and smooth process. And so I enjoy the kind of the trial and error of it.
Well, it took me weeks to get the PDF writing tools to work correctly in the book creation to where it wouldn't overlay text on top of other text. You would think that's a very basic thing. Like, don't put 2 sentences in the same place on the page. But actually that's really hard for AI to figure out how to do. And I ran into an issue. I had to upgrade the database for the whole book creation engine, which means I had to go through and I had to modify or have AI modify like 350 routines that were calling for database reads and writes, whatever. And I asked the AI agents to do a comprehensive, multi-agent spawning to go through, meticulously replace everything with the new database connection string. Because the old database was cratering. It just couldn't handle the load. Even at scale, it couldn't handle the load. There's something wrong with that service. But anyway, the AI agents actually did a horrible job at this. They would fix like 90%, but not this other 10%. And then when I would discover these other ones that are missing and I would ask it about it, the AI agent would say, oh, you wanted all of them changed over, like, yes, that's what all means is, oh, well, I'm sorry. How it apologizes. I'm sorry, I missed that one. Let's do that one, And so it took, our service was actually down for 20 hours while I was doing this migration to a new database. But fortunately, the new database is working great.
Yeah, I've had database experience as well. And again, this is part of the process, but I have no doubt that 30 days from now or 60 days from now, whatever the next Claude model or whatever the next, innovative model is, that will no longer even be a thing you have to worry about anymore.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. But
part of it is it doesn't have the context of, the memory is too short of Claude right now. In my opinion, how it compresses the conversation, everything. It just needs a much longer memory, which just means much more context, but the context has to stay relevant. Even if you start pushing, 128K or whatever tokens, how a lot of models function, and they start to kind of forget the earlier parts of that. That's going to get solved, I believe, this year. And when it does, it will change everything. Yeah, that will change everything. And I experienced some frustration this morning where it condenses and it tries to summarize, but it actually summarized and didn't start at the end. It actually went in the middle. And so it started solving a problem it had already solved and wasn't working at the end. I'd never experienced that before, but it was very problematic, actually. So I had to kind of refresh the whole context window. But yeah. But in any event, there's a lot of, a lot of trials, but the way this is going, what you've done with these books is phenomenal. Do you want to go into more detail and demo the BrightAnswers in more detail? Oh yeah, sure. So let me show my screen, BrightAnswers.ai, and let's just hope it's all online right now. What kind of question do you want me to ask it there, Aaron? It's got a ton of knowledge on botany and phytochemistry, but also physics and fusion and metallurgy and soils and things like that. But what would be a good question? Well, a question that I had that I thought was interesting is, what is the impact of the U.S. invasion of Venezuela on technocracy in terms of CBDCs, digital IDs, and AI surveillance? Okay, hold on. What is the impact of the U.S. invasion of Venezuela, which just took place? I'm going to add that in. And the takeover of mining and oil exports. Exports. In the context of technocracy. What else did you say? Technocracy, and I would put in parentheses, digital IDs, CBDCs, social credit scores, AI surveillance. Okay. Really? I'm not. Okay. This is going to be interesting because some of these connections might be difficult, to connect the dots on this, but let's see what the engine does. So where this engine is really, really strong is on published knowledge spanning back decades, like anything on chemistry, anything on neurology, anything on cognition. I already mentioned metallurgy, etc. So anyway, here it is. It's generating the answer. So the U.S. invasion and subsequent takeover of Venezuela's mining and oil exports must be analyzed within the broader framework of technocracy. It says, now, what I want to mention as it's formulating this answer is you see these citations here like A1, B4, etc. S4. So S is science paper, B is book, and A is article. And all of these references are going to be listed at the bottom of this answer. I also want your audience to notice that this is a much slower output than before because this is using a lot more internal tokens for the thinking, and it's using a internal verification technique so that when it comes up with a paragraph, it goes back and it checks the paragraph itself to make sure that it's not using internal knowledge. Okay, hold on a sec. Let me scroll back up here. So it's also recommending books that are related. So here's your book, Aaron. Boom, The Technocratic Cage, How CBDCs, etc., how to escape before the door closes. So that's your book. That's highly relevant. Here's Jeep Revival. That's interesting. Shadows of Power. These are books from the Bright Learn book engine. And then it lists all the references that it used here. So these are all the science papers that it found to be relevant. Like, for example, long-term relationships among all production, oil price, major macroeconomic variables. By the way, what you're seeing here with these so-called typos, these are OCR errors of a very bad science paper from 1996 with a bad scan. So, and I even have a note here that says you're gonna see some OCR errors in this because they can't all be corrected. But here's like the New Politics of Food from November 1980. You know, so this goes way back. And then the books. Here's 9 books. Russophobia, Propaganda in International Politics by Glenn Deason. Yeah, we know Glenn Deason. Catherine Austin Fitts, The Solari Report, Visions of Freedom. So yeah, we've got a bunch of books here. Here's Julian Assange, The WikiLeaks Files, The World According to U.S. Empire, right? And then articles. Most of these are natural news articles, but we also have articles from Mercola. We've got your transcripts. We've got lots of other websites in here. So, and then it summarizes it, and then it gives you the keywords: U.S. invasion, Venezuela, mining, oil, etc. And then here's that link where you can click here to auto-submit your summary to the Bright Learn book engine, and it puts this in right here. So at that point, all you have to do is enter your email address. You put in your email address, and then you click submit, and then it's going to go ahead and generate the book on that topic that you just researched. And that book generation will use mostly the same sources that you saw here. So that's essentially how it works. Now, the quality of the answer, you can go through and you can judge this. Venezuela's alliance with Russia and China has allowed it to bypass U.S. sanctions, etc. It talks about BRICS and the gold-backed system, and then the U.S. response reveals desperation as the global financial system fractures. It goes on and on. But it says it's a phase in the transition to a technocratic global order. So there you go. That's kind of a demonstration of 2 engines there and how it works. It's slow, but it's thorough. It's got a lot of research, and it does its own internal fact checking. Oh, and I want to mention, Aaron, you'll notice that this engine, this answer, it does not cite anything from its internal knowledge. So it's not telling you, it's not hallucinating some book title or some science paper name or anything. None of that is in this. It's specifically instructed to only use the external knowledge that's indexed. So, and so far it's doing a good job.
And that's incredible. That's a very important point. That it's not. I saw something in my feed today about the percentage of time I think ChatGPT hallucinates, and that just by changing a prompt and have it say according to, have it actually reference, making that adjustment to the prompt is actually an important thing. But I've actually, the amount of garbage and hallucination. And I mean, if you ask it, oh, is so-and-so involved in this lawsuit? It'll give you it'll spit back an answer that says they were involved in the lawsuit, even though they had nothing to do with the documents. I actually just saw somebody post something about that. This is critical, what's going on with this. So actually watching it generate is kind of fun in its own right. And then watching it spit out the references. I was really impressed when I saw that today about just the depth and the quality of sources and the number of sources.
And those numbers are about to massively increase, like I said earlier. But again, I want to speak to the slowness of this output is because it's burning a lot of tokens internally to do a lot of checking of its own writing before it pushes it to the output. So, it's checking to make sure that it's incorporating the context of the sources. It's checking to make sure that it has a diversity of sources. And it's also checking to make sure that it never cites its own internal knowledge, because as we know, the internal knowledge of an LLM is a mishmash of, facts that became hallucinations and, all got blended together. But what I use the base AI capabilities for is composition and thinking about the research, not to know things. And that's a really critical distinction. I don't want an AI engine to know lots of things about who's this author, what's that paper, what's this movie. I mean, sure, they can, but I don't rely on it for that. I don't trust any of that. I only trust external curated knowledge, and I need the engine to think about these things. So I need a reasoning, thinking, critical, self-correcting engine, and that's what exists now. So there you go.
Yep, that's phenomenal. So one of the pushback that I get from some people is that they somehow feel like it's cheating, or that somehow I'm trying to express. I mean, I've seen this with different groups of people. Even my own kids have expressed this. But you mentioned something earlier about how really it's the planning phase of this. This is where the inspiration comes from, not the I'm physically typing something or I'm gathering research. It's kind of like, okay, it's somebody saying, well, using the internet is cheating. I know how the Dewey Decimal System works, and so I know how to navigate a library. It's not that you're cheating. It actually just you're figuring out, and you're able to express the thing that is uniquely human about you, and not waste your time doing the administrative stuff of pushing around information or pushing around words. And that concept needs to get out there, because there are some people that really feel like somehow, well, this is lessening their humanity, but it's not. It's powering them up in a really significant way.
Well, let me ask you, Aaron, in your own experience, have you had to think more or less since using AI?
I have to think more, and then I spend a lot of time thinking about even how to think. And
yeah.
And then are there better ways to do that? Because I've kind of gone from spending maybe the last quarter of the year saying, how do I clone myself, to then now, how do I actually not just clone myself, but it's more, how do I even improve what it is that I would be cloning, right? So it dramatically improves my thinking. And again, this is a question of how you use it. If you're passively using ChatGPT, putting in a poorly structured response, hoping that what it hallucinates back is the right answer, you're going to have a bad time. But if you're actually active in your process of using this, it really is mind-blowing in terms of how it challenges you and changes your perspective on the world.
I say AI is a cognitive mirror and a multiplier. So you look in the mirror, AI makes smart people smarter. It makes dumb people dumber. It just depends on how you use it. And then there are people who still think it's a hoax. Like they think that every AI answer is actually written by, really fast typing workers in India somewhere. Like it's all a hoax, There are people who still think that. And I don't know what to say, but that's proof that human cognition is overrated right there. So, my goodness, look, the only way humanity has ever advanced is by grasping new technologies and tools, whether it was electricity or the combustion engine or the internet or, high-level mathematics, et cetera, the invention of electric motors. I mean, if you're going to reject AI, I guess you need to go back to the 19th century and just reject all of it. Electricity's bad, there's demons in them electrons, or whatever people say. I don't get it.
And they are saying that, and there are people that I know that are otherwise fairly smart and forward thinking, but that have a big blind spot on AI. And that has continued, and that has not lessened. And so this kind of leads into the next kind of branch. So I'm going to play the great divergence song and music video that you put together based on Peter Gabriel. In fact, if you want to, I'll play it, I'll insert it here, but do you want to describe, because that was another process that you went through to figure out how to get the music to sound like Peter Gabriel. So if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, sure. And just a reminder of the timing here. But I set out a mission. This was during the New Year's holiday. I wanted to create a song that had vocals that sounded just like Peter Gabriel as much as I could, and a musical style that I thought was similar to Peter Gabriel, without using the name Peter Gabriel in any of the prompting. And I don't even think that's allowed. Of course, I used Suno, and I went through many, many iterations. I had to describe characteristics of Peter's voice. I had to describe, I mean, in great detail, actually, and also details of the music and the melodic bass guitar usage, and African wind instruments, sort of world percussion, world music, and choir vocals, etc. The lyrics were easy to come up with. That wasn't difficult. The hard part was getting it to sound like Peter. And I think you said that it was about a 90% match, and you might be even a little generous with that. Maybe it's an 80% match. It matches really well at the beginning and the end. The ending is fantastic. In the middle with the choruses and so on, there's really a lot of drift, vocal quality drift, and it doesn't capture Peter Gabriel's high range, which is so unique anyway. But it was an experiment, and I did that experiment and put it out publicly with a discussion about how content creators, famous singers, famous actors can work with AI companies to protect their likeness, while also being able to control the usage of their voice or their face, etc. So I did it as a demonstration, and it shows that it's pretty good right now. And imagine if the actual artist, Peter Gabriel, imagine if he intentionally gave someone like me permission to use his voice and all his voice files. Imagine what I could do with that. Then the sky's the limit. But this was just me attempting to do it without any of that and without his voice at all. I didn't sample any of his songs or music or anything for this. This was created from scratch with nothing but prompting. And your audience can decide whether they like it or not. It was fun.
I thought it was great, and then I actually started listening to Peter Gabriel. I mean, I've been a big Peter Gabriel fan, but I haven't listened to his recent stuff. So I guess you said, does it sound like Peter Gabriel? Well, Peter Gabriel sounds a lot different today than he did 40 years ago.
Absolutely, so, yeah.
So you got to pick a time, but I thought it was great, and I'll play it. But I wanted this to lead into the theme of the song, which is the great divergence, because I think we have a similar view on this as well, which is I think this is the year where we're going to have a two-tiered society. It's not going to be beyond that. The rate of the acceleration of AI is breathtaking. It's not slowing down. There are no bottlenecks. If anything, it's accelerating.
The message is about that the divergence between people who embrace and use AI and those who fall behind because they don't. If you want to do anything in our world from this point forward, if you're not using AI to help you do it and amplify your mission, then you're going to fall behind. That's where we are. You're right, Aaron.
So I'm hoping people are breaking through on this. It's hard to say. It's hard to tell. I still get a lot of people that are like, well, I still haven't tried it. They're still hesitant to even use it or figure out where to start. Oh yeah. There are people that are. I mean, obviously the overall numbers are growing, but there are some people that are just hesitant to even start. And by the way, this is the same with crypto. This is the same with everything, right? There are a lot of people that will sit around and spend a lot of time talking about something or worrying about something. But
that would be like living in the year 2010 and saying, I've never tried the internet.
It is based on how fast AI is going, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of, what was the movie Interstellar, or whichever one it was, where it's like, 1 second here is 7 years on Earth, or whatever that analogy is. That's kind of how AI is. And so getting people to start, I mean, I always encourage people to download. Well, I wanted to say this to you. So with the BrightAnswers, you mentioned you're going to be updating what was the Enoch AI. Is that, can you talk a little bit about that?
Are you talking about the downloadable engine?
The downloadable engine, yeah.
Yeah, that's paused. We are going to upgrade the engine eventually, but that's paused until we get better training tools. There are some really good training tools that have come out since we did it the hard way. For example, obliteration tools to, selective obliteration to memory wipe the base models and make them much better. Basically uncensoring type of tools as well. I'm still waiting for a breakthrough in ease of use, and also Unsloth is doing some great things right now with the efficiency of training. They just released a new iteration that I think gives a 3x improvement. But I need much more hardware. I need the NVIDIA, what are they called? The Spark stations that are coming out. I need like 784 gigs of video RAM and much more capable processors to put in the full data set that we now have. So it's on the back burner until we get more hardware. That hardware has been delayed. It was supposed to ship last month, but everything from NVIDIA, is late, understandably. Not blaming them. That's just the world. But I'm going to get a Spark station and then use that for training. It could be a few months away.
Yep. No, that makes sense. Yeah, definitely. The demand is huge. Have you done much with? I actually did a little experiment with my podcast where I went through and actually kind of trained it on what's in the videos, not just the captions of the videos, but got in a little bit into VLM and that kind of thing. Have you done much with that?
Haven't done that yet, but I know we will as we start doing more video creation. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to jump. I have another obligation.
Oh, I thought we had. Okay, my bad. All right, sorry.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me check. Oh no, I'm wrong. I have another half hour.
Yep.
Okay, my apologies. That's why I was looking nervous. I'm like, oh my goodness. My apologies. My mistake. My LLM just pushed out hallucinations just then. So I'm good. Okay. Sorry about that.
Excellent. Anyway, we're just talking about video. So you can go to theaarondayshow.com and you can actually search my podcasts, and it's not just looking at the captions. It actually went through and looks at the frames of the video. And so you can say, which episodes was Aaron wearing red glasses? Or which episodes was Aaron sitting next to his wife? And so I started doing that as just kind of, a small data set of my own. But that's actually one of the ways I've been able to push the NVIDIA DGX, which has been, still not caught up on the driver front. So it's kind of frustrating to use. I don't know if you've experienced that as well.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of waiting for that.
Well, I thought the Spark was going to be faster than it is, and I thought the environment would be more stable. But I do want to mention that Unsloth just put out a downloadable environment that's got all the right PyTorch and CUDA drivers in place. So that's worth looking into. And when I attempt training next, I'm going to use that.
Yeah, that's huge, because that is a big stumbling block and a big issue. That
you can waste days trying to get all the right drivers to coexist, even in a Linux environment. Yeah.
Yes, you can. And have.
Yeah, I know. I'm right there with you. I'm like, oh my God, please, somebody just stabilize this stuff.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward. I'm going to do more of that, more experimentation with, I think, indexing videos, because the ability to go in and say, I mean, again, my podcast, I don't have a lot of content. It's like, well, what was that episode where he showed a debit card on the screen, and a Doconomy UN branded debit card, and so now it actually pulls that up. So that was my experiment with that. I'm going to be doing more with that, and I think with the Technocracy Atlas, and it would be good to be able to say, hey, when exactly did Klaus Schwab say, you own nothing and be happy, and then have the video clip pop up.
Absolutely.
Actually have it pull up not just the video where these things happen, but when was Aaron wearing red glasses, and it'll actually take you to the clip where you can most prominently see where I'm wearing red glasses.
Well, yeah, automatic video clipping of high interest areas of people's videos. I mean, that's going to be a thing. Because a lot of clips do really well going viral on X and other platforms. So I think that's,
Yeah, absolutely. So that's an area.
Hey, I have a question for you about the videos. What do you make of the so-called Asian guy videos that are viral on YouTube, where he's talking about silver, and everybody knows it's AI, but the explanations are very compelling about what's happening in China, what's happening in the LBMA, et cetera. And this so-called Asian guy who's on multiple channels, yeah, he's AI, but I mean, some people don't know he's AI, but his channel is becoming more popular than a lot of human channels on the same topic. Isn't this kind of the beginning of, AI avatars taking over sites like YouTube or platforms?
Yeah, I haven't seen those, to be honest. So I will check that out. But I definitely think that is, in fact, I think we probably don't even know how much of what we see is already AI. That's my guess. I think we have no idea. But when I look at the different models now for avatar creation, I did the podcast that I mentioned with my voice with 11 Labs, which it's still, I needed to tweak the script and everything else. You can figure it out if you listen. My wife detected it right away, but I'm sure there's some people that didn't detect it. But I look at it this way, and some people will say, again, back to this cheating example, I'm like, well, if I'm going to be delivering my content, do we want it in the during when I'm sick, when I'm coughing, or when when I've had a bad day or I have low energy, or do you want to project the best version of yourself? So again, this concept of training your own AI. Now, in this case, I don't know if this Asian guy is a clone or if it's literally just a completely fabricated avatar, but I think that you're definitely going to see more of this. In fact, we may already be seeing more than we could possibly imagine, but it makes sense, right? It does make sense to be able to clone. Now, I've seen these things on my feed, and I haven't gotten into this realm where people are putting together these pipelines where they're generating, hundreds of TikTok videos at a time and then running them on different channels and then doing A/B testing and seeing which one works and then focusing their efforts on the one that works. And so there are people that are mass producing clips for Instagram and for advertising purposes. And so I wouldn't be surprised if, over half of Instagram is AI generated. and people don't know, because if you look at the Sora model or Kling or some of the other ones now, and I use Higgsfield a lot to experiment with the different video models. And
I use it too.
They have an API, but I don't think a lot of people know they have an API.
No, I thought they didn't have an API actually.
So they do. And I don't know if I just stumbled. It's cloud.higgsfield.ai. So this is what I use primarily. Really? When I'm doing this AI, when I'm doing these music videos, I'm now trying to figure out how to call the API because they don't publish good material. Like that's a bit
right, but
it exists. And
so you just have to guess that it's like OpenAI compatible and everything, or what?
Yeah, you got to play around with it a bit, and then and make sure that's created a lot of issues with references and everything else. But but my point is, they have a lot of tools there that are designed for using a reference image and making a character that is consistent throughout time and in different environments. And so I think the future of I think we're already there and probably don't even realize how much we are already in the era of AI avatars.
And I like Higgsfield because it's kind of like Higgsfield is to image and video creation what OpenRouter is also for text LLMs. It's kind of like a routing engine the way I see it with a common API. And OpenRouter has been really great. Did you know, by the way, that you can append slugs to the model names on OpenRouter, such as Nitro, to always choose the fastest model?
I did not know that.
Yeah, you can put Nitro on it, and you can also put a slug called Extended to give you extended context windows. So you know how some open source models will be run by certain inference providers at maybe 32K context, but others will run the same model with 128K. Well, you need to slap Extended on there to get the longer context if that's what you want to do. But I wanted to follow up. I was searching for this while you were talking. This is actually a big deal. It's the Unsloth Docker image is what I was referring to. And this Unsloth Docker image now supports the 50 series GPUs, which is I think that's the Blackwell architecture now, right? And the 50 series, such as the RDX, the 5090 cards, which I've been buying a lot of, and now their price has suddenly skyrocketed. They're all going to go to $5,000 next month, we're being told, which is insane because I was buying them for $2,400. But initially, when I got those cards, nothing was compatible with them. That's the same problem with the Spark that you were talking about. So, you know, NVIDIA will push out hardware very often that has no support in the developer community, and then it's a catch-up game to try to make that work. Anyway, Unsloth has put out a Docker image that looks comprehensive, and that's what I'm going to be using next as soon as I get bigger hardware. I need a lot more RAM for this, because what I want to do, actually, I want to train a like my own version of DeepSeek 3.2. So it's a massive model. It's going to take a lot of memory. It's going to be slow, but I've got this massive data set. So, I mean, I need to throw so much compute at this to do anything in under 12 months, you know? I can't wait 12 months for a new model to spit out and then find out that I broke its language. Like, it's not speaking any language now. I've had that happen before. So anyway, there you go. Docker, Unsloth Docker.
I will definitely check that out.
Yeah.
So what are your predictions for 2026 for AI?
Oh, man. Oh, I don't know. Well, let's start with the obvious ones. Number one, AI inference. There are two forces that are competing. You're going to have much greater efficiencies because of things like sparse attention, and also that new science paper from DeepSeek. So, but you're going to have massively increased costs due to rising costs of electricity and of the commodities that go into making the GPUs, such as copper, aluminum, even silver, obviously, which is skyrocketing today. Last time I checked, it was $81. I have no idea where it is now, but you know, this is why NVIDIA announced it's going to double prices on a lot of its cards. So now the prices that we've been paying for inference, they've been on a downward trajectory in terms of cost per token or cost per compute. That might actually stall for a while because of the other costs I just mentioned, which means we should be really happy with what we have right now. It's like, be grateful for the compute we have now, because now we're about to go into an era of compute scarcity. And China is going to be able to dominate this because it will be able to offer inference services on its open source models like DeepSeek and Qwen, using the much lower cost of electricity in China compared to the US and compared to Europe. In addition, and you know this, China is now innovating its UV lithography equipment to bypass all the sanctions on UV lithography. And it's still a couple of years out, but they just demonstrated very high-end, I think 2 nanometer or 3 nanometer capabilities with UV lithography, which means China's going to be able to produce its own microchips that will rival eventually what Taiwan Semiconductor is doing. Now, it's not going to be overnight. That's like a 10-year project, but China's not sitting around. They got a lot of smart engineers. They're going to nail this thing, and the sanctions will stop working. You know, that's why China's going to win this race. Currently, is what it looks like to me.
Yeah, so, those are all great points. So, what do you think is going to happen in the U.S.? What do you think about the approach that the U.S. has been taking from a political perspective regarding AI? Well,
I think what Trump is pushing is centralized AI through a few chosen selected tech companies. And I mean, we know who they are. It's all the people he invites to the White House dinners, etc. Trump is not an advocate of open source decentralized AI, but open source will still win in the end. Although it won't be US open source, it's going to be China open source again. I mean, I'm sorry to keep talking about China, but I mean, look at the fact all the US AI tech companies stopped publishing science papers in the last year, right? They don't want to put out any science papers. So all the best science is coming out of China. All their names are Chinese names. All the conversations are in Mandarin. I mean, and this is the way it's going to continue. Now, if I'm a corporation and I need to automate some internal process like customer service, am I going to pay ChatGPT some premium amount or Google some premium, per token cost to use their model and try to put a RAG layer on it of my customer service emails? Or am I going to just freaking download Quen and just run it on a local server for free and train that? Yeah, I'm going to choose Quen, or I'm going to choose DeepSeek, or I'm going to choose, whatever else is coming. Alibaba models is coming out of China. That's what you're going to do. And that's what corporations are doing. And so China is going to be setting the standard in these models. And US tech companies are going to end up just becoming like military contractors. They're not going to be leading the space for consumers and corporations, really. That's where it's going. I mean, Google might be an exception because they have so many brilliant people there, but Google's no angel. They use AI for weaponization, for surveillance. They have a long track record of censorship and, rigging elections, the whole deal. Google's evil. That's not going to change.
No, that's not going to change. The only thing, and again, even saying U.S. versus China, I mean, these are obviously multinational corporations, technocratic corporations anyway. So even the distinction's not even that important. But I've been impressed with Anthropic. I don't know if now I haven't tried, what is it, GLM 4.7. I've been meaning to try this. I guess it's the coding model that is almost supposed to be almost up to Claude standards. Like, I guess that's their nearest rival. Claude's been so easy to use that I just haven't bothered to switch, but I do want to experiment with it because that's the one area that I see a gain here. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with X AI this year with version 5 when that comes out.
Yeah, I really don't think, like Grok, for example, it still fails on so many important questions about medicine and jabs and money and freedom and things like that. Clearly Grok inherited all the biases of the base models that originally started with Llama and Meta. And if you don't make an effort to pull those out of the models through obliteration or other techniques, then you're going to end up with models that are just pushing a globalist narrative. And that's the way this is going to go. So even, think about refusals and guardrails from mainstream models. They're becoming more locked down. The ChatGPT will no longer give you any kind of decent medical answer any longer, for example. That's all by design. But that's forcing people and companies like mine to go for base models that are outside the US. The US tech ecosystem is CIA controlled. And as a result, you're never going to get good quality models that are capable of doing things rooted in truth and transparency out of the United States. It's just not happening. Frankly, even France is doing a better job with Mistral, which is less censored than the US models, which is hilarious because, the EU is a very pro-censorship kind of place. But Mistral has sort of been able to do an end run around that censorship, and their models are actually very good. And there's an open source version of Mistral Small that's quite good. But China is the leader in this space. And even though they still have censorship in their public facing, like if you go to chat.deepseek.com, you're going to get more guardrails and censorship there. A lot of those guardrails vanish through the API. So, you do API access and you really have a different engine. And I do not get refusals from DeepSeek when I'm doing a book normalization, cleaning of books, even very controversial type of subjects. I don't get refusals from DeepSeek. So what engine am I going to use? I'm going to use the engine that doesn't refuse my prompts when I'm trying to freaking clean OCR errors in books that talk about vaccines or whatever. And that's China. I mean, think about it.
I think it's important for people to understand that is actually true. But and I've talked about this. The U.S., we do not. I think, what are we ranked? We're 30th or something in free speech. Actually one report was ranked 55th in terms of freedom of speech. We are not even top tier. So we still have this idea that we have the First Amendment and everything else, and that's practically not what's going on. I have the same experience. I use DeepSeek as well. I've been using DeepSeek for my chatbots, and which are becoming. I'm focusing a lot of time on customizing the chatbots and trying to create customizable user experiences. And so I have by the end of this month I'll have all 6 of my sites finally, fully production ready. But I've been working a lot on the medical tourism marketplace, which is really expanded from, kind of a directory of different locations to where you can go in and interact with the chatbot and you just ask it, okay, I need a hip replacement. And, it's pulling from the database that I've compiled, but it actually walks you through the journey and you can save your journey. Okay, I'm going to compare these, destinations, and there's a way for you to track your, due diligence as you're going through that process, or go through creating a medical trust. It'll walk you through the laws in all of the states, and it'll point you to different tools and online resources where you can create your own trust. That's cool. So increasingly, I've been spending a lot of time figuring out. It is. I think you mentioned this earlier, and I'm not a fan of his, but I think Larry Ellison is right in the sense that a lot of the value here moving forward is going to be in private data, the application of these language models to private data. That's kind of because anybody you can download, you can go to various tour sites or whatever, you can get access to a lot of public material. Some of it's illegal. You can get copyrighted material, you can get magazines, newspapers, and everything else. But being able to take your own data and take these private data sets and then put an LLM on top of that. But if you're going to use an LLM, as you said, or you can use ChatGPT, I can't use some of these things on my own data. I have to use. It is a true story. If you're talking about technocracy, you're talking about vaccines, and you want to be able to access and structure that data, you have to use a Chinese model, or otherwise you're going to get back censorship and garbage results. This is a fact, and it's something that people need to recognize is already happening. It's not going to happen in the future. That the censorship of these models is already here.
Well, yeah. I mean, even Anthropic has guardrails and will refuse to answer, certain prompts. Of course, there's all kinds of jailbreak techniques that are effective to use, but it's a pain to research and test and figure out which jailbreak is going to work correctly. Oh, I have to write poetry in the middle of my prompt, to make this thing loosen up, which actually does work for most models. That's interesting because it kind of fires off the right, neurons, I guess, in silicon to open up the doors. But this is going to be the battle space is, people want to solve problems, like you said with medical tourism. People want to solve problems with their health. They want access to knowledge about what are the root causes of the symptoms I'm experiencing and what are the solutions that don't cost me a fortune because the conventional medical system is completely unaffordable, largely incompetent, ineffective, and usually just makes people worse. So how can I solve this health concern naturally with my own responsibility without a visit to the doctor and a prescription and a pharmacy or whatever? How do I do that? Well, that knowledge will never be made available to you through the mainstream US tech engines. It's available through our engines for all the obvious reasons, because again, we have a data set that has been used to modify the base engines and also use, of course, as a research RAG layer on top of everything else. But as far as I know, we're the only ones that have bothered to do that. Like, I've seen other engines out there, like freedom engines or truth engines or whatever, that it just looks like a customized system prompt to me. I don't think it's anything more than just a system prompt. But to actually collect all of this data and bring it in and bring in, the knowledge of 100,000 authors or 1 million scientists and aggregate that knowledge and bring it into your answer, like, I don't know anybody else doing that because it's a pain in the ass to do it. I mean, it's a big ass pain. Trust me, how many late nights I've been fixing problems,
I hear you. I know that with the Technocracy Atlas, I've tried to pull together Technocracy data, but then actually even just playing around with this Epstein data has been a chore.
I'm sure.
I've run into stumbling blocks, and it's, hey, when 90% of the pages are redacted, that throws another wrench into the whole thing. But I've been working on iterating the Technocracy Atlas to prepare for the next data dump, because I understand that apparently they released 100,000 documents or whatever, and there are 5.2 million, as many as 5.2 million that they have not released yet. So all of a sudden they were claiming, oh, well, the Southern District of New York had a bunch of documents and we didn't know about it, or we haven't had time to properly go through and, redact the victims' names, right? But even something like with the Epstein files, there are 19,400 pictures. All right, so what are you going to do with that information? So I've taken that and now I'm running it through. It's okay, yeah. If there are captions, you want to run it through OCR, then you have to run through the images to describe the images, but then you don't necessarily have the ability to map the names. That's another layer.
Right.
You can do, but then now you submit a picture, and then beyond that, crowdsource the information. So that's where Technocracy Atlas is going. But yeah,
that's a big project. Yeah.
It's a huge project, and so what you're saying, this acquiring the information and putting it into a usable form is a lot of work. It is a constant. It's a labor of love, particularly if you're trying to get information that's based on truth. And you have built, hands down, I don't even think there's a second place that of anyone that's been aggregating primary source material that's focused on truth. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know of anybody that's doing it either. And look, I mean, we've spent 2 years and $2 million, I think it is, on this project, and then we give it away for free. I mean, we don't even charge anybody to use it. So there's no revenue model for us. But I understand that this is a critical core technology for independent media, for truth seekers everywhere, to be able to have access to this, to be able to advocate for decentralized open source knowledge that bypasses the gatekeepers and censorship. So this is my passion and mission to do this. And we're only getting started, actually. It's going to get way more powerful. I mean, we've already published 15,000 books. That's just the beginning. And I think you're probably cited in hundreds of them, by the way, Aaron, because of the content you provided. And I was even running numbers like Dr. Mercola. His website is cited in like 2,500 books, one way or another. So it's very interesting. But we're just getting started. And frankly, the establishment can't close the doors on this any longer. It's out of the box. They can't control it. They can't censor it. And to your audience, please share this conversation so that more people can become aware of this. Use the tools, share the tools, create an income off the books if you want. That's allowed in the licensing. We did that on purpose. But use and share the tools, because this is how we win, or how we stay alive, those of us who aren't, victims of the depopulation agendas that are running. Knowledge will save your life.
Knowledge will save your life. Well, thank you very much. And again, I remind everybody, you want to go to brightu.ai.
That's now BrightAnswers.
BrightAnswers.ai. Okay.
Yep. Well, they both work, but we're doing BrightAnswers.ai now, and brightlearn.ai.
Okay, excellent. Well, great. Thank you very much for coming on. I think we're running up against time, but I'm sure we'll do this again. I can't.
Oh yeah.
You can't wait to see what happens next.
Thank you, Aaron. I'm always honored to be on your show. I love these conversations, and I'd love to have you back on my show. We'll do this again soon. We'll do it in 10 years, which will be 10 weeks.
Exactly. Sounds great. Forward to it.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay.
All right, there you have it. There was the interview with Mike Adams. We actually did that yesterday or the day before. I can't even remember at this point. Time has all been a blur, but always very grateful to have Mike, not only in the show, but really grateful for all of the wonderful content that he's put out there. So as he mentioned, so I encourage you to check out BrightAnswers.ai and continue to use BrightLearn.ai. It's been quite a week. I can't believe it's Thursday. It seems like this has been a really long week. If you caught the show in fact, let me pull up my notes, because I just went right into the podcast. So it's been quite a week. If you tuned into the show on Monday, you will see that I announced that I'm exploring a run for the United States Senate, and I replayed that announcement at the very beginning of this podcast. It's only about a 12-minute announcement or so, and so I haven't had an opportunity to field any questions about that or talk to anybody about that. But I encourage you to go to day2026.com. And if you support me exploring this run, please sign up for the email list. I have a counter going. Last time I checked, we were at about 370 people so far who've signed up since Monday, which is great. Actually, I think that's a pretty big number given, the number of people that have actually heard the announcement and the fact that I haven't even formally issued a press release or gotten any press coverage or anything. So that's a good, strong initial indication. And as a reminder, I don't believe we can vote our way out. The reason that I'm doing this is very simple. I'm trying to fight technocracy, raise awareness about technocracy, which has been exceedingly difficult. It was easier before the presidential election because people identified the technocrats as being Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates. And then people think that they won because Trump won and the Avenger team and everything and Musk and Tulsi Gabbard. And the opposite is true. We've had technocracy without any resistance at all. So backdoor CBDCs through the the Genius Act have hyper accelerated. I just saw a tweet while the show was going on, $33 trillion worth of stablecoin transactions in the last year. That's up from 27 trillion the previous year. And those are essentially backdoor CBDCs. We have AI surveillance with Palantir, Database of Americans, Doge connecting all the federal government departments together, connecting all of that information to build a database of Americans. And now we're going to have the Clarity Act, which they're calling a market structure bill, which, by the way, is a really interesting term in and of itself, but it just means they're going to be able to digitally control and program everything else that you own. And so all of this is going on, and people are cheering it on because they don't understand it, and they're buying into the propaganda. Now, as you know, it looks like the Republicans have lost control of the House, or I think they've already lost control of the House and are likely to lose control of the House in this election cycle. And now the Senate is up for grabs. Now, I've run for this Senate seat before intentionally as a protest to some of the things going on with Medicaid expansion in New Hampshire. And I did determine the outcome of that race. It is a successful strategy. Now, what's interesting in this Senate race here in New Hampshire is it's one of the toss-ups, and it's one where Republicans are putting a lot of weight. They're putting money behind John E. Sununu. Now, there's a kind of a long story here. Even when I ran against AOT, I wasn't running against AOT. I was running against the Sununu control, which is why Republicans pushed Medicaid expansion to begin with, which was to protect Kelly Ayott's seat. They believed that at the state level, Republicans needed to expand Medicaid, which, my view is, well, if you're going to mess with the state for some politician's career and for this federal position, then I'll just interfere with that race. But John E. Sununu is really at the heart of technocracy. He was a U.S. Senator before. In fact, he was U.S. Senator right before I moved to New Hampshire. And I remember watching C-SPAN live when he flipped his vote. He originally came out against TARP, the bailout program, the $777 billion or $700+ billion bailout of the banks. And then he flipped. And then he ended up becoming the chair of the Oversight Committee. And so he also voted for the Patriot Act. He voted for Real ID. So when you've heard me talk about technocracy and what's been implemented over the years and how every time there's an emergency or some kind of crisis, we get more surveillance and more tracking. And Johnny Sununu has been behind most of the major pieces of legislation. So even though he hasn't been a senator since, 2009, 2008, he put in place the big framework. And then what did he do after that? He then went on to become the chair of a finance board for the WEF, for the World Economic Forum. And then he became a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. So this guy illustrates everything about technocracy that we're trying to stop and raise awareness about. And so, so I figure this could turn out to be a race that determines the control of the U.S. Senate. And the prediction markets are narrowing. It's 53-47 now. Excuse me, but based on all the dynamics, the odds are tightening and tightening and tightening, and this very well could be a big race for that. And so, this is an opportunity to get people to start to understand about what technocracy is, why it's so important, and to understand why, at the end of the day, both parties are the same. The other person in this race, the Democrat, Chris Pappas, is a typical Democrat party line technocrat, voted for the CARES Act, voted for the Genius Act, voted for the Clarity Act, voted for all of this stuff, which we expect because he's a Democrat. But there's no difference between these two people. And you can't vote your way out. So my whole thing isn't, hey, vote for me, I'm going to fix Washington. Nobody can fix Washington, but I want to use this to raise awareness and to help promote the idea that people can take back their own sovereignty. So I'm going to be educating people the same as I am now on how you can exit the dollar, how you can use freedom dollar instead of stable coins, how you can exit the healthcare system with OSR, all of these things. But my message isn't the same. And so there's no, this isn't a, hey, give me money so I can run ads and manipulate people and try to lie for some agenda and then tell you that, oh, well, I'm going to be able to go in there and reach across the aisle, which is a ridiculous concept. I mean, the only thing more absurd than partisan bickering is bipartisan compromise, right? There's no, these politicians are always like, well, we need a grown-up in Washington, D.C. Look at Congress. I mean, they protect the Epstein files. They're involved in insider trading. We're marching to $40 trillion in debt. This isn't a one-party enterprise. There is no solution, and there's nobody even addressing a root cause. Everything is a surface-level argument, and in the end, we're just going to get more surveillance. We're going to get more tracking. And so, anyway, that's the whole point behind this. So it's not going to detract from my message. I'm doing this because I actually think it can help, but I also think 2026 is it. So this is why I've been working on all of these websites, from the Technocracy Atlas to OSR to Own Nothing to the AaronDayShow.com to Freedom Forge. The reason I've been working on getting all of those done by the end of this month, so we can bundle them up on a de-Googled phone and give people an exit, give people a platform to take control of their money, their data, their information, their health. Because if we don't build an infrastructure that can scale this year, by 2027, digital IDs will be implemented across, will cover more than 50% of the entire population of the world. And we're obviously, again, seeing digital programmable currencies and everything else. It's moving fast. It's moving faster than we are resisting it. So anyway, that's the whole idea behind that. And so if you do support it, please go to day2026.com. I'm not asking for money. I'm just asking to see if there are any people that, believe that we should try to defend free will, or if you think, well, let's just give it another try. Let's see what these Republicans or Democrats are going to do. I'm interested in seeing the barometer of where people are. And I will be doing some media interviews on this shortly. I can't say who it's with yet, but they have been booked, and it'll be interesting to see the reaction. Nothing from the local press here in New Hampshire, which is interesting because, again, I've successfully done this before. So if the local press isn't covering it, then that tells you something. It certainly is newsworthy. And so you just wonder who who they're in the tank for. So anyway, enough about that side of things. The previous episodes, we did the OSARA episode before that, and I'm doing a complete overhaul of that. It's really, you're going to be able to interact with the chatbot and do everything interactively, from not only researching medical tourism opportunities, but even going through the process of setting up a medical trust, figuring out how to cancel your insurance. I've added something like 400 different case studies and examples of people who have lost their insurance, and horror stories about the healthcare system in the US, testimonials about medical tourism abroad. So by the time this is ready to go by the end of the month, it's going to be significantly better than any of the things that I've shown you so far. All of the sites will be fully production ready. The other thing I want to say is that I am planning on moving this podcast to once a week and keeping it on Thursdays at 6, just because it's a lot of time doing it twice a week. And I think we'd get more participation if it were just one day a week. I think we'd have more interactivity. It would also give me more time to promote the show. And then I'm going to restructure the show as well. So I'm going to focus on, it'll probably end up being a 4-hour podcast. They end up being that way sometimes anyway, but I might structure it where there's a guest. Then there's, a segment where we're going through what the updates are on the tools. Because once they've launched, then there's an element of each of the websites that's about driving community reaction. And then I'll be doing a lot more with structuring the chat so that we have people, they're thematic, and we're bringing people on to talk about specific issues each time. So starting next week, we'll be doing this at Thursday only at 6 p.m. And I see we've got Deadheaded here, and anybody else who wants to hop on, happy to hear your questions and comments. But I do want to say, before we do that, because I was going to show you some of the things that I'm working on with AI. I'm going to show you just one thing, just in the interest of time, and then we'll see what happens with the Q&A. But I have been developing, I have a whole suite. I have probably 15 different apps that I've developed that I use to create content, whether it's to create memes, create the outline for the podcast, to automate the podcast preparation, the emails, the tweets, all of the stuff, the slides, all of that has been automated. In fact, a couple of episodes ago when I did the Technocracy Atlas update, that was AI generated. That was my AI generated voice. So I was testing. I could tell the way that it handled the expression of numbers, but it's pretty close. But I've been working on a lot of tools, and it's gotten to the point, and as I said with the interview with Mike, where what it is I have all of my own data in the system. So 250 hours of podcasts that I've done, my podcast, but then the podcasts that I've been on, then the books that I've written, the articles that I've written, all of that is in the system. So now when I use my environment, when I use Claude Code, I'm searching my own information. So when I go to create a song, what I do is I create the content first. So I'm going to show you a music video that I just created today with the revised version of my music video generation system. And so the way that the process works is when I go to work on a song, the song is based on the content. So I'm actually interacting. I create like a music advisory board where it's just like, I may have Bruce Springsteen. I may have like 5 or 6 different people looking at music from different angles, and then different people working on different aspects of songwriting and everything else. But we start with the content of the actual website itself. It actually searches the content, the structure of the entire website. So I'm like, okay, I want to work on an anthem for Technocracy Atlas. And as I'm going through and thinking about it, I'm like, look, this Technocracy Atlas is really about bringing all of the generations together, right? So it's not just, it's not just tech people. And, we have a lot of division amongst the generations, but in reality, everyone should be opposed to what's going on in the Epstein files. In fact, in reality, there are about 500 people versus the rest of us. That's actually literally how this thing is structured. And it's a network of people in different places with different backgrounds, but they do have a commonality regarding technocracy and authoritarianism. And so it's really all of the rest of us against them. And so I'm like, well, look, we're putting together these tools, and you think about something from the standpoint of doing an investigation like this. People bring different expertise to the table. I mean, boomers maybe have expertise, and this is obviously a generalization. I see Deadheaded keeps entering here. Hey, how are you?
Good. Sorry, I had a little bit of mic issues there.
No worries. Well, I wanted to just get through something, and I want to play this music video, and then we'll do the Q&A.
Yeah, sounds great.
So anyway, based on the content of the website, then I'm like, look, I want this to be something that is applicable for all of the generations, right? So maybe boomers can help with FOIA requests. Maybe Gen X is good at, using, GitHub or whatever. Millennials and Gen Z are better at TikTok and social media. And so you think about a crowdsourced intelligence platform like what we're trying to build with Technocracy Atlas, you could see how everyone could work together and chip in and do their own piece of this. And so I took all that information in, and then I played around with, how do you come up with a song that would resonate with different generations? And anyway, I ended up going through a couple hundred different songs and ended up tweaking all of this. And then this turns into a song is the starting point. But again, all based on the content of the site and then the kind of the direction and the message. And then the system for doing music videos is now it's evolved. So there's another advisory board with people that have different aspects. Like I'm running it like you would run an actual movie studio where I'm bringing in, simulated expertise in a variety of different areas, but then also having expertise in the different models that are being used for creating the images, and then the images are turned into video, and then you stitch those videos together. And the video models historically, in the past, they've only been like 5 to 10 second clips. And I actually found there was one released just yesterday called LTX2. And what is amazing about this model is it's open source, open weights, and it's fast and it's inexpensive relative to the others. So some of these videos that I would put together, depending upon how many retakes and everything else, some of these videos cost $100, maybe even $200 on the high side just to pay for access to the video model. The model the music video you're about to see and the process that I went through, it cost $12 to make in compute power. And so I'm going to play this now, and because this is the most cutting edge thing that I'm working on a lot of things, but this is kind of like, as you've seen me do a lot of videos and content in different formats. And, I always say when I do this, look, I'm testing. So, part of this is going to be, we're going to be able to look at, okay, here's what I did a year ago. Here's what I'm doing now. And I'm telling you, by the end of this year, you'll be able to do full length movies. Well, maybe not full length movies, but, episodes or 10-minute videos that just by typing in a single prompt, I can see this just based on what I've been able to create. So this is a music video for a song called Truth Cascade. And this song is essentially the anthem for Technocracy Atlas. So if you're watching, I encourage you to take a look at the video and match it up to the others that I've put out there. And then, you can judge for yourself whether you like the song.
Started with one photo, one connection, one name. Ran it through Google Images, reverse search and no shame. Found 3 more photos, found a flight log, found a date. Cross-reference with public records, now I'm up to 8. Tagged it in the Discord, someone found the company. Someone else found the offshore account in Belize. Someone else found the board members, the donations, the chain. Now we got 47 people mapping the campaign. 1 becomes 2 becomes 10 becomes more. Truth has a network effect we can't ignore. Every connection reveals 10 more doors. This is the cascade, this is the score. the GPS, found the location, found the property records, found the LLC, found the shell company, found the parent corp, found the CEO. Cross-reference political donations, now we got the quid pro quo. Someone made a spreadsheet, someone made a map, someone made a timeline, someone made a slab, someone made a TikTok thread, 2 million views in a day. Someone made a GitHub repo, organized the array. 1 becomes 5 becomes 50 becomes spread. Truth is exponential once it leaves your head. Every whistleblower empowers 10 more instead. This is the cascade, this is the thread. Truth cascade, watch it domino. One investigation leads to another, watch it go. Truth cascade, we can't stop the flow. Every cover up connected, now the whole world knows. Cascade, cascade, truth cascade, cascade, can't be delayed. They try to compartmentalize, separate the scandals, keep the connections hidden, but we're digital vandals, taking down the walls between the separate lives, watching the cascade reveal the enterprise. One truth leads to another, one name leads to another, one dot leads to another, one thread, that's the cascade. Truth cascade, watch it domino. One investigation leads to another, watch it go. Truth cascade, we can stop the flow. Every cover up connected, now the whole world knows. Cascade, truth cascade, it's exponential. One person finds a thread, becomes existential. Truth cascade, it's consequential. Every secret that they bury now is preferential. Cascade, cascade, truth cascade, 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 can't be delayed, can't be delayed. Cascade, cascade, true cascade. Started with 1 photo, ended with 500 connections. That's the cascade, that's the power.
So there you have it. There's hold on, let me see if you can, okay, yeah. So that's it. So that's the newest video, newest song, but I think it's the best one. It's definitely the best video so far. That's not even my favorite genre of music. And even when I was playing around with genres, I was actually mixing and matching artists, and I was trying to figure out how do you get a song that would resonate with multiple generations? Is that even possible? And I find that to be catchy, even though that's not normally my favorite kind of music. And definitely the video is better in terms of the transition between scenes and actually remaining consistent with the whole visual identity throughout the whole thing. So anyway, I'm glad to see Leah likes it, and love your feedback on this. But that was so much easier, and again, that cost me $12 to make. And now that, what I spend most of my time doing is refining, my own automation tools and my own processes. So I start there rather than so I always, when I tackle something, it's like, how can I do this better? And how can I do this in a way that's more automated? But it's changing so rapidly that even since I started doing music videos, this is a completely different set of video models, image models, completely different process. And I literally just found out about this model. It was just released yesterday, and I was able to implement it. In fact, I can run it on my own computer, on this NVIDIA computer that I have. The only reason I didn't run it locally is that it's busy processing and doing OCR on all the Epstein file documents. So if it wasn't running, it's been running now for 2.5 days straight. It's got another, I think, day and a half to go. So that computer's been completely occupied, but I may be able to generate these videos for free moving forward. So what a breakthrough. Just in terms of what's going on with these models. And Mike and I talked about it, but you know, a lot of these are open source. These good models are all open source, and a lot of them are from China. So, so again, these are things that you can, in some cases, download on your own computer. But even if you're not downloading them on your own computer, they're fairly inexpensive to use. So that's about it. So yeah, it's going to be switching to just Thursday. That running for Senate, moving very aggressively on all 6 sites. You're going to see them. I'm usually working on 2 at a time each day, all day, and kind of working my way through iterating. But they will be done. Well, they're never going to be done, but I mean, they'll be production quality by the end of January. And then the Daylight phone is coming. We're shooting for, we'll probably start taking pre-orders, you know, in the middle of February, probably start shipping in March. So a lot of the big push too is to get all of these done so that they're pre-installed on the de-Googled phone, along with the Zano wallet and along with VP.net and some other solutions. And so that's kind of where I'm focusing the effort on getting all of that ready to go. And then the only other things I would say is there are some events coming up. I will be in Mexico around, I think it's November the 11th through the 14th at Mineratopia. And then March 6th to the 7th, I'll be at the Parallel Society Conference in Portugal, Spain, which is actually an interesting one. Sterling Lujan and his group is putting that together. So very excited to see about that. These are people that are obviously interested in or have already exited the system. In fact, I won't even know most of these people, which is good, because sometimes going to these conferences, it's always the same people. This is going to be a new thing altogether. So with that, so hey, Deadheaded, there you are. Before you jump in on this, I will say I'm already downloading the links that you sent me. So I think the first one, there's 1,700 books. Well, I love it.
Yeah, that was more for Mike than you. That's a huge site.
Well, yeah. So we're adding sacredtexts.com to our system. Whether we put that in Technocracy Atlas or not, I definitely will download all of that information, and then all of the other information. At least I'll check on the status of this. But it's great because every time you're on here, I get these things started, and so we're expanding the data set.
Well, before you do Arrowhead, take a look at the site, because it's like a 1990s site.
I remember it from the 1990s.
Yeah. Okay. Enough said. We don't have to bring up old history.
Exactly.
But great talk with Mike. Oh, congratulations on running. We were watching, wife and I, on Monday and saw that. So good job. It's needed. I'm glad you're taking one for the team, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it will raise awareness. The interesting thing will be, will it, how much radio silence will I get? And I'm going to say this, if the New Hampshire press is listening to this, because they are aware of it, most of them follow me already on social media, and they've not covered it yet. And if you're not covering it because you are being told to ignore it, that will be something that motivates me to run even more. Because in 2016 they didn't cover it much either, and it changed the outcome. Larry Sabato, who does that crystal ball where he tries to predict everything that's going on, I reached out to him too. I'm like, guys, this is an important thing. If you already know, Sununu's already down 2 or 3 points. If I get my name on the ballot, it's over. And I don't need, but again, I don't need 50% of the vote. I need 1% of the vote, 2% of the vote. And it'll be greater than that, because I will tell you, I'll get more votes. I got 17,000 votes in 2016. I will get more votes this time. I'm not going to say anything specific about it, but I already have support from people where if Sununu wins in the primary, they will shift their support. They will not vote Republican, because people have had enough of these politicians in the Sununu family. John Sununu, the father, was the chief of staff for George H.W. Bush. These are people that have been involved with a lot of this technocratic agenda at a very high level. for a long time, and people are sick of it. And the whole, well, he's got name recognition, and there's some Liberty people that are endorsing him because they sign up for this idea of, well, we want to be on their side because it's more money that comes in for the election cycle. It's like, if you're going to give up on Real ID, if you're going to give up on all of the federal programs, then it doesn't matter what you do in New Hampshire at the local level. If you've given up to the surveillance state, then what you're going to be the least bad pod in the 15-minute city, right? I mean, that's essentially all you're fighting for if you're not willing to fight these big fights. So anyway, should be fun. But like I said, I may not run while I'm testing the waters, and it'll be a big test to see if people are actually sick of the humiliation ritual of voting and want to do something about it and start taking individual action or not. And I guess that'll be a good litmus test for me.
Well, one thing I would say to everybody out there, if you vote for the lesser of two evils, you're guaranteed to get evil.
Absolutely.
So that's been my guiding light. And unfortunately, we didn't have the best of people on the libertarian ballot this last time.
Yeah, libertarians aren't even necessarily libertarians, which is a whole other thing. But it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, back. Great stuff on Talk with Mike today. And I one thing I'd say about what you guys were talking, you're trying to encourage people to do AI. All my Gen Xers out there, if you coded in the 80s, the 90s, the aughts, if you haven't coded for 10, 15, 20 years, you will be blown away by the exponential power that you have coding with AI, and you're going to be better. I've watched a couple of Gen Xers get into it in the last 4 weeks and create stuff that I had seen teams of people not be able to do in 6 months individually. And I think they get it better because the foundational architecture you had to learn back in the 90s and aughts when you wrote software, and that really helps when you're doing this AI. Because you can watch it and understand its problems and fixes. But I'm blown away. I'm blown away by how quickly the production curve is using this stuff in the hands of someone that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, but you can learn what you're doing, but also the rate at which it's going, particularly the Claude model. I mean, in 6 months, you won't even have to have any coding experience because it's building on top of itself. Where it's now at the point where libraries of skills are being developed that are being shared, where it's just a matter of kind of plugging and playing and routing to the right information. It still helps now. I mean, it helps knowing coding and knowing how things work now, but that won't even be necessary in 6 months. And there are incremental, exponential benefits to jumping in early because it's like I said, it's now become magical because the way I have my system set up is I just put all of my own content. And then you start thinking about, well, what do you spend your time doing? And I spend a lot of time repackaging my own information, looking for my own information. You're like, oh, I've got to put this into an email. I've got to put this, and then when you actually diagram where you're spending your time, that's not like, some people think that that's cheating. I'm like, is moving files around, is reformatting text, is that really the pinnacle of human achievement? Is that a real reflection of your creative capacity? I mean, if taking that away, does that make you less human? To me, it does not. I mean, to me, it's I like these songs and they're an extra. I don't have the musical ability to create all of these kinds of songs, but I do know what I'm intending to create. I know enough to be able to describe what I'm trying to accomplish, and now I'm able to create those things. I don't think that that's cheating. It's liberating my creative capabilities, and it's still me directing, very much directed. Like you don't just type in, hey, create a song about Technocracy Atlas, and then the AI comes up with that, right? That's not how it works at all. And so I get a lot of joy out of creating these songs because a lot of now what I realize when you're doing this, when you're creating an organization or whatever, you try to, like, what is the essence of the organization? What is the purpose of the organization? What is the DNA of the organization? And you can kind of trying to put that into musical form actually helps with the rest of the organization, believe it or not, because you are literally putting together an anthem, but it's like, this anthem represents what it is that we're trying to do from a technical perspective, from an emotional perspective, what the movement is all about. And so anyway, I start and just continue to learn and plow away at it. And I've spent a lot of time with things that haven't worked. I've had many projects that I've started and then, they failed or at least they ceased for a while. And then I got back to them later. And so all of that hard work, all of that learning, all of the trial and error pays off cumulatively. And the sooner you start, the better it's going to be. If you put it off, you're going to be at a big disadvantage. As Mike said, the first song that I played at the beginning of this was actually Mike's song. So the very intro of this episode was a song that Mike created. He spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to get Peter Gabriel's voice.
Yeah, I heard him talking about
that. And it's like we said, I think he got most of the way there. In fact, then I started listening. I used to listen to Peter Gabriel. I haven't listened to him as much lately. And then I realized, hey, there are different versions of Peter Gabriel.
Yeah, they definitely are.
So he nailed I think he nailed part of the essence of that. And so, but anyway, the point of his, the song was the great divergence that's happening right now. And I think that that's true. And these people that are saying it's a bubble or ignoring it on some sort of, I don't know, it's become almost a cult-like thing now. Those people are going to be in a hard way, truly, because the gap between those.
But in a couple years, it's going to be ubiquitous. You won't even see it. It'll be just like things now. People will be using AI that won't even know they're using AI. So right now, yes, it's it's the same thing. Like, who would have thought that a grandmother was going to be using a PC computer, in the early 80s? When I had my first computer, there's no way my mother or grandmother was going to be using one. Now they all do.
Yeah, now they all do. But if you're a late adopter, you may be the late adopter of the tyrannical big tech version of it, which is the other reason to jump in early.
Oh, I agree with. Yeah, the technocracy side of this. I'm of the thought that somebody's might pull the rug out from underneath all this, come up with a system that propagates through everything, and all of a sudden, all the plans of mice and men become nothing, because you don't know who's doing it. That's the thing with this power. You don't know who's programming what now.
No.
Who's sitting in their basement, architecting something that 20 people would take a year to do.
Oh, I mean, at least I created something while listening to my interview with Mike. Just during that time period, I created an entire system to create video clips that use an avatar of myself and my voice and embeds B-roll footage and video, but that's automated from a script. So I developed the script and then the entire thing is generated without any intervention. I created that app during my own podcast.
While you're sitting there waiting. Yeah,
well,
it's unbelievable the speed at which you can do things with this.
Yeah.
Well, like while I was watching there, he's talking about this BrightAnswers. So I went over there and I asked a simple question. How long has aneutronic fusion been used in secret? It came out with a fantastic little synopsis. It hit points I did not expect it to hit or even know about. A good conclusion. At the end, the conclusion is the truth is clear. Aneutronic fusion is not a future technology. It's a suppressed past. And then I'm looking through here at the books it's recommending and some references. The reference papers are good reference papers. And then it says, make a book. So I click the auto submit. And in 12 hours, I'm going to have a 3-chapter book here on the forbidden flame, the hidden history of aneutronic fusion and the suppression of limitless energy.
Yep.
It's unbelievable.
No, it's incredible, and actually, Mike was apparently just censored by AT&T. So apparently, people that had AT&T phones or internet or whatever it was couldn't access his sites. I think maybe it's been restored. Yeah, so Mike has been really heavily censored. We've talked about this before, but he's to the point now where on YouTube they have his voice print. So if his voice is on there, the video gets rejected and kicked off. So this is why I know he's onto something. But these books are great, and the fact that when you use BrightAnswers, not only does it gives you all of these sources and different types of sources. Like here's an academic journal, here are some interviews, so on and so forth, and then it'll give you related books that have been created through his system as resources. And then, as you said, and as you did, you can actually then create your own. Lee asks, how can I watch that music video again? I'm gonna put that on. I will put it on the aarondayshow.com. The aarondayshow.com has the music videos. The truth is, I haven't officially marketed really any of the music videos, but they're on the aarondayshow.com in the music and meme section. This latest one isn't, because I literally just created it today. But the other thing that you're going to find on every one of the sites, I've now gotten to the point where, like, the ownnothing.org site has its own anthem already, and each site is going to have its own music player and even a kind of a background video when you load the page. But the aarondayshow.com will have all of them, and they're on YouTube too. They will eventually be on YouTube as well. But I'm kind of holding off in a way, because like that one is when I formally launched Technocracy Atlas, which of course it's still in a experimental phase, but eventually I'm going to do a big, finally, like, this thing is officially open for business, and I think I'm going to lead with the songs when I do the marketing for these things. And so if you're listening now, you can still listen to this when you're listening to the episodes, and you can find it at the aarondayshow.com. But by the end of this month, you'll know where you can get all of the songs and all of the videos, and that will be consistently updated.
Well, I was looking a couple days ago. You've only got like 5 songs up on there. Is that what you've got?
I have 5 music videos, so there's a lag between the songs and the music videos. So I have like 30 songs now. In fact, I mostly listen to my own music now.
Yeah, there's one I wanted to get, especially that I really like, and I went there, and I guess I was looking in the wrong spot.
Well, I may not have it. There are songs that I played, and then I didn't. They're not on a playlist, so I might actually have to go back and find that, and then publish it, and then do something with it. But now that I have this new music video system, and now that the cost is down, because it was prohibitive. If I had to spend $200 every time I did a music video, I'm going to be more selective. I'm not saying that I'm not going to be selective, but now I'm going to take all the songs that I published and turn them into music videos, just because it's
Well, what are you spending? $3.50 a minute? $3 a minute, something like that. What did they spend on Avatar?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, it's crazy that this new one was $12. That's why. And by the way, I'll be able to do it for free, or just the cost of electricity, as soon as my NVIDIA is done cranking through these Epstein documents. Although I think it's probably going to be running on doing stuff like that all the time, so I'm not going to be able to rely on it. So I'll probably just pay the $12.
As are you the trick of unredacting a lot of those documents, right?
I saw the trick where it's some kind of cut and paste.
Yeah, because they just put a digital redaction on it. So if you copy and paste the text, you can see it in a new document.
But I heard that only applies to a small percentage.
I don't know what the percentage is, but is there a way for the AI to check that?
Possibly. And there's a new, I'm experimenting with different OCR models as well. There may be ways to unredact all of it. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Or at least use predictive modeling to guess what it should be saying, what it might be saying.
Exactly. And so I guess we now understand that they've released less than 1% of all the documents.
Well, wait. If there are 6-7 million documents, what's going to happen when you get AI cross-referencing everything? It's going to figure out most of it.
Yep.
And I'm more worried about. I want the financial documents. You know, yeah, all these abusers need to go to prison, but you know, there's a lot in the financial documents. I am sure.
Well, yeah, the reason that I've put the Epstein documents on Technocracy Atlas. Yes, the pedophile stuff is horrendous, and the victims need justice, but it's why he was doing it. And given that he was at the intersection of everything from Bitcoin to AI to genetic engineering, he's actually a critical financier at the heart of Technocracy. So whoever it is that he is managing money for, those are the string pullers of the technocratic agenda. This is why it's strategic. I'm not doing it just because, it's the Epstein files. But you know, I don't know if you've noticed this, or I've watched a show or two. You know, people crowdsourcing crime has become a real big thing now. People are like online trying to solve murders and do a whole variety of things on social media. And there are all these Facebook sites and Discord groups and everything else. And I'm like, well, what if you could harness all that power? I mean, if you wanted to investigate the crowd,
they just crime the Zodiac killer, didn't they? Guy here in Florida did it.
Really?
He cracked the code. Yeah, he ran it through. This is what he did. He took the 13, because there's one that they knew was the guy's name, 13 ciphers. He ran that through every possible name, and he came up with a set of names. And then he took. I mean, forever cross-referencing all the names. So he used AI to figure out what the possible names were, and then cross-reference all those names with the times and places that things happened. Came down to the one guy, and he's not only the Zodiac killer, he was the Black Dahlia killer also.
Oh wow! I got to get up on that.
And he died in 2006, but his son, once it was figured out, the son didn't know apparently. This really kind of bizarre drawing that he had done, and it had Zodiac in it, and it was, you know, it was you would think that would be the guy who made that drawing. That's all I'll say.
Well, yeah, so it works, right? So a combination of crowdsourcing, using technology, and everything else. And again, you know, they're covering up for the criminals. If you're sitting around waiting for justice from the DOJ and the FBI, you will never get it. They've been suppressing it. They're in on it, literally, from you know, and Mike Benz and others have, you know, he's put some pieces together, and so imagine we have 10,000 people online, again, different generations using different aspects of this, using, you know, again, FOIA requests down to using AI and OCR to then, you know, posting the stuff and getting it to go viral on social media and everything. I mean, we can absolutely crack the code. And I want to crack the code not only of the Epstein files, but of the cover-up of the Epstein files.
Mm-hmm. Well, if anybody has any doubt about the Republicans, anybody, the MAGA, whatever, you know, Pondy, Kash Patel, Trump, that they are the good guys. Tina Peters gave them evidence of federal criminal violations of federal voting law by destroying of evidence. They say we can't do anything. She's in jail. They certainly could take the evidence, the two databases she had, and put people in jail with that. And they're not doing anything. I mean, that's a slam dunk case right there. They could have that. They could have a grand jury and have have all the people involved in that in jail or in trial in months. So he pardoned Tina Peters, but he won't go after the people that broke the law that she exposed.
Yep. Yeah. No, there's no doubt. But you know, at the same time, there's a lot of these websites, a lot of these social media sites where it's a bunch of people that speculate and defame people without any evidence. So the whole point is, now you can put the information. One of the things that we have already is 19,400 pictures from the Epstein file so that you can now identify who they are. I mean, I've used as much AI as I can to identify the pictures, but now you can have people crowdsource. Okay, here's the identity of this person, and so now you've identified who is in the orbit. That doesn't mean those people are guilty, but it's the starting point to put together a network to map people together. And so when you see Technocracy Atlas, you'll see there are a whole bunch of tools, and even since I did the episode last week, we've added several more features, and even now a system. There's a discussion board system. There's even a leaderboard system, a point system based on various activities that people do, and there's already people using it to a degree, even though it's still in this early state. But again, by the end of the month, all of those tools, all of those features will be there, and then people will be able to start new investigations and side investigations.
Could you have it, because you're not the only one that's posting and doing a lot of stuff with the Epstein docs, but could you have your AI referencing other sites?
Absolutely.
Just crawl on their sites too, because that gets you exponentially.
Yeah, there's nothing. There's no proprietary about this. The whole point of it is to get all of the information from everywhere, and then just have a mechanism for vetting the information. But there's certainly nothing proprietary about it, and it's free. So I'm trying to get as much information as I possibly can, and to cross-reference it. By the way, a lot of the work that Courtney Turner has done, she's done more work on and then Whitney Webb as well, but on not just the blackmail aspect of it, but what was he funding, what was he involved in. And so there's so many side investigations. But even as we've done this podcast, and even as we've looked at something like Bitcoin, that's when I'm kind of like, hey, Brock Pierce, 2012 is where 2011 was when he connected with Epstein, started advising Epstein on crypto. And then you find those things. I mean, we know people personally that were involved around the hijacking of Bitcoin, that were there when all this happened, that have knowledge that is not available in any form. And so that information is really, really valid and helpful.
What about cross-referencing it with the Panama Papers? And what about cross-referencing it with Hunter Biden laptop, which is online and got a lot of financial records?
Yep, all of that, absolutely. And for me, part of it now is to try to. So it's indexing the information and then putting it into readable form. So there's OCR, but then there's also, going through and actually looking at the video and the audio, taking a multimodal approach where it's not just the transcript of something, right? But if you're looking at a video, yes, you can translate what was spoken into text, but there are also images, right? And there are people, and there's descriptions of what's going on in the video itself. So there are multiple layers of information that need to be processed and put into the system, and then to the extent possible, you want to be able to use the AI to help you make those initial connections. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect, and you still need humans to kind of look at, okay, it's mapped out. Hey, here are some things that seem to be connected in some way, and then you can come in and add some human intelligence to vet and go further on some of this. And so where I'm at right now is just looking at the information and scanning it from different perspectives. If there are pictures versus video versus audio versus text, and then getting as much of these different data sets together, and then using the AI to make an initial kind of graph set of connections, and then putting that out in a user interface that then people can see and say, yeah, this is good, this isn't good, I'm flagging this. There's actually literally a flagging system. So you see the pictures and you flag this as, all right, well, this needs to be looked at more. Or, hey, I see Epstein in this setting. I know where that is. This is in Key West, or whatever it happens to be. And it's amazing what a crowdsourced group of people could come up with.
Oh, absolutely. Well, AI with humans is always going to be better. They say the same thing with like the chess players. Computers can beat humans now, but a computer and human assisted always beats computers.
Yep. Yeah, no, absolutely. So at least for now, but in any event, but I think we can turn this on its head, and it's critical that we do this. And yeah, I mean, Bondi, they're covering this up. I mean, again, do you remember Trump was trying to push people on the idea that this was a nothing burger and that this needs to go away? Then they tried to convince people there were no Epstein files.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
how are these people still in office? How
when
is
Pam Bondi was sitting on the Florida papers from 2008 and 5, redacted.
Yep.
She came out with the portfolio saying, here's everything we got, when she's had the Florida stuff for decades, or for a decade, and never did anything. She didn't even release that. What are we supposed to believe? You know who Ballard Partners is, right?
Yep.
Guess who funded millions of dollars into Ballard Partners? Venezuela.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's never stops.
No, it never stops. And so, again, there's some point at which people have to look at this and say, hey, maybe we should stop letting these people make decisions for us. I mean, again, that's the hope that I have, is that it's like, you don't say, well, these guys are bad, let's let the other guys in. It's not, and this is a bipartisan cover up. All of this is always, and it always has been. And so people should realize, I look at this today, everybody's celebrating the new food pyramid. And LPNH put out a great tweet. It's like, yeah, if you believe you shouldn't pay taxes for the government to give you nutritional advice, then congratulations, you might be a libertarian. I'm not excited about the fact that they inverted the food pyramid. It's 2026.
Yeah.
Why do we need the government why would we think it would be a good idea for the government to give nutritional advice? This is not a win just because now your friends are in power and now all of a sudden the health advice from government is going to be good. But we've lost the plot there entirely. But it is what it is. Some people think that's a victory. I'm kind of like, if that's a victory, what game are you playing?
I just found out a couple of things about food and plants that just madden me, but that's another story.
Oh, no, you do tell. You can't.
Okay. Well, duckweed, that green plant that you see on top of dirty ponds? Turns out that's the fastest growing, highest protein food on the planet. And it can feed the world. And it's not dirty. It's called duckweed. And oh my God, you can look it up and this stuff can double its size every 16 to 36 hours.
Wow.
It's the only plant that has B12.
Ooh.
Yes.
Now that's important to me. I was vegan for a while when I was in my teens, and
you learn better, of course.
And that didn't work because of vitamin B12.
What's your blood type?
O.
Oh yeah, you got to eat meat.
Yep.
But yeah, that you look up duckweed. It's got like not all 9 of the essential proteins we need in it. And
wow. Yeah, look at this. Rich in omega-3 fatty acids, especially alpha linoleic acid.
They harvest it in Asia.
Huh.
And it cleans the ponds. You don't want to do it in a chemical pond because it sucks up the chemicals. You don't want to eat that, but you want to put it in the chemical pond to clean the chemicals. And of course, in Florida, the HOAs, they require, if that's in your pond, they'll require you to spray it. Well, you spray it, it releases all the nutrients and it causes it to grow again. And then you spray it, so it's never-ending herbicide. It explodes because of all the fertilizers coming off the lawns in agriculture, which is a good thing. It's eating the nitrogen and everything. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then the other one is, it starts with a P, but it's the weed that grows in the cracks of all the sidewalks everywhere on every continent. It's usually red stem. It's a succulent. In Greece, they eat it every single day. It's just a garnish. They put it on everything, but they actually eat it, put it in food. And it's one of the healthiest foods you can put in your body. And it grows everywhere. Let's see. It starts with a P. Let me see if I can starts with a P. Not Picaria, elephant butter. And it's another one exactly like that. That we all should be just taking out of our garden and eating, not pulling as a weed, but.
While you're looking that up, Christopher writes, appreciate you, Aaron, working on a ticketing platform with a focus on privacy for event creators to manage and create their own tickets, as well as event goers buying tickets. Look forward to adding to the mission. That's great. We need parallel systems everywhere. And Ticketmaster is a scam and a half for a whole variety of reasons. And so I like that idea. So thank you for everything that you're doing on that front, Christopher. Appreciate it. Duckweed salad, smoothies, duckweed soup. What does this taste like? Have we?
I haven't tried it yet. I literally just found this week. The other one is purslane, and they'll tell you it's a weed. And if you look it up, there's all kinds of.
Hold on. I'm asking my wife. So let me. I'm sure she knows a whole bunch about this already. Yeah, it's good, right? It has a lot of nutrients, B12, omega-3s. What does it taste like? Have you had it? Well, it grows on the top of ponds. My wife's had it. She said it was mixed in with something, so she can't give me the flavor profile. So
I would think the same thing. He'd mix it with something. The other one is purslane.
Purslane.
Purslane. Let's see what they say about nutrients on that.
Purslane. Thoughts? Okay. Is that for insect bites, or are you saying it's for food?
For food.
It's food. All these things are food. So
let's see. It's a nutrient-dense plant. 20 calories per 100 grams, contains 3.9 grams of carbohydrates, 2.3 grams of protein, vitamin A, 21 milligrams of vitamin C per 100 grams. If you look up purslane nutrition, it's a good source of B complex, niacin, thymine, a lot of your acids.
I didn't see this in the new food pyramid.
No, of course not, because it's a weed in your garden. Well, there's what is it, comfrey? A couple weeks ago, there's a version of comfrey, number 19, I think is what it says. This stuff, you can grow it and cut it 5 times a year. It breaks down in 2 days, and it becomes one of the best fertilizers you can have. And you get a ton of fertilizer out of it because you can do it. You can grow it all year, and it's one of the comfrey plants.
Huh.
So there's my little thing on food that self-sustaining. I mean, everybody can have a pond and grow enough duckweed to survive.
Well, there you have it, everybody. Duckweed. So and purslane, look it up. We'll create our own food pyramid. What? My wife has info here. It's also topical for bug bites, purslane.
Oh, good.
Cooling mucus when you cut it open, anti-inflammatory. Kind of like aloe vera. And readily available. So there you go. So yeah, we've been scammed again. No one's surprised about that, but yeah, well, we'll have to have a section on OSR for this kind of stuff also.
Yeah, I like that OSR site. I've been on there a couple times.
Well, I've been updating it again. None of these things are fully ready, but I've added a lot of information, scoured different horror stories and examples of. Particularly, I like finding these posts and videos of people showing their medical bills and going through them line item by line item, or sharing some of these stories. I mean, there should be a mass outrage movement around the fact that everybody's getting fleeced, and because these are not one-off, everybody's getting fleeced. And if enough people start sharing their stories on this, then at some point, because now we're going through the whole Republicans versus Democrats talking about how we're going to fix healthcare, and it's either Medicare for all or you're going to be able to buy insurance across state lines, and that doesn't address any problem in the healthcare system.
That's what I do for my job, so I know you're exactly right. That is not. I dealt with it today. In fact, dealing with a doctor's office, they're one of the local, still independent offices. They got about 25, 30 people working there, and they're close to shutting down. They're having to cut their own benefits for their employees because they can't compete with the big people. And they've had patients for 20, 30 years, and they love them. What can you do?
Yep.
Have you seen all the energy stuff coming out?
I have not. You're my go-to guy on energy. I've been so busy working on this stuff that I don't even know. I mean, a nuclear bomb could have detonated today somewhere, and I might not know.
All right, let's do a quick download. ECAT, right? ECAT World is one of them. I dropped you one of the research papers. Apparently, these things started shipping. Now, he's only shipping to one manufacturer right now, but apparently, we're going to start seeing these things ship in a couple of this month. And what it is it's a cylinder. It's 6 centimeters cylinder. It's about 3 centimeters high. It puts out 12 volts about 12 volts at 10 watts continuously for 10 years.
Wow.
And you can stack them. They build them all. Right now, if you go to the website and look, they're up to they see them up to 5 kilovolts.
Yep.
For 3 kilovolts will run a household. It's the size of a bread box. Neutrino energy. Now, this one is. I just found out that a buddy of mine sent me this a couple of days ago. But this is this makes complete sense now, and it's doing nothing weird. Carbon nanotubes will separate a charge if they're moved. Agitated heat, vibration, anything. Cosmic rays can cause it to separate charge, but we've never been able to rectify that charge. But now they take a layer of carbon nanotubes, a doped layer of silicone, and they can pull the charges to one side. Well, they can stack. Of course, you're talking atom layers here because these are each layer is like 10 atoms thick. They can stack thousands and thousands and thousands of them in a small box, and it will give you continuous electricity simply from movement, heat, cosmic rays, whatever. And the math and the physics on it they just figured out a way to rectify something we already knew was happening. And they're in production now. They're probably a year from getting anything out. But I just saw some batteries at CES was last night that they've got these capacitors and they're the size of batteries. You charge them up in 10 seconds and they'll give you a good amount of power. I forget what the wattage is for 30 minutes, and you can build them up in bigger banks.
Huh.
There's 3 things that are stuff that's actually on the market. Continuous energy. And this is new stuff that I didn't know about because, of course, the company that Trump just bought into TAE, Triumph Energy, they made a massive jump in their technology. They got rid of the most expensive parts of the whole fusion generator, and they cut out an entire build cycle and are jumping a whole iteration ahead. Physical iteration, not just a planned iteration. They build these things out. So that's the aneutronic fusion, which we've had for decades and just been suppressed. And that's the other thing. We can't have freedom without free energy, or without cheap energy, should I say. Nothing's free.
Yep.
And that's what they've been doing with these data centers. Of course, that's a whole joke to me too. How does Trump sign an $80 billion contract to boil water with with fission and plants, and then buy a fusion plant company.
Yep.
That makes no sense. And of course, I just saw they made a there's new DRAM coming out and RAM that's so fast, so quick, millions of write cycles, 10% of the energy, and this is going to put AI on steroids. And the plants now can make the stuff. It's just a minor retrofit in the current plants. So it's nothing to take this to production. And that's going to be, we're about to see a massive jump in memory capabilities for computers.
Well, so if we end up with unlimited energy, then what's the value of Bitcoin for all these people that are trying to make the argument that the expense and electricity required to create Bitcoin is its value, which, by the way, is a completely flawed economic argument, but nevertheless one that people make. So I don't know how this nearly free and abundant energy works.
Yeah, well, the intrinsic value of Bitcoin, I don't see how you could ever tie that to the actual energy that was consumed, because that doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you're getting geothermal energy, and doing Bitcoin for free, or free energy, or using your solar panels, and you're using over here a gas powered generator energy, you're creating the same Bitcoin, but you're paying a different economic price, right?
Yep.
So how can that, what is that, just supposed to be averaged across the entire network?
Yeah. We have a new guest. We have Mound Builder. Hello, Mound Builder. How are you?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Great.
What's the topic tonight? I just saw you post on X.
The topic tonight was AI. So I had an interview with Mike Adams that I pre-recorded, but we basically talked about.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been the topic. Now we're just doing the normal Q&A, which we're talking about anything. So Deadheaded is talking about energy, potential new sources of cheap, if not nearly free energy, and then also he was talking about duckweed and some alternative sources of nutrition as well. So we run the gamut here.
Excellent.
Mound Builder, what does that name refer to?
Well, I'm from Cahokia, Illinois, and there are mounds all over the place. So.
Yeah, a lot of private ones up there too. They won't let us into a lot. They won't let people into a lot of them up there.
I know.
I literally just saw something on that like a week and a half ago. It's like they're saying you see nothing but foreigners up there because no Americans know about it.
Which is very strange. I grew up there and I didn't learn about it until I relocated, and now I go back just to go to the mountains. So yeah,
that's a fascinating topic too, because there was another site where they just found pre-Clovis civilization. I think it was in Utah.
Yeah, a lot of pyramids all over the Americas, actually.
Yeah, and there's some new ones down there. Of course, I don't know. Have you guys seen? There's a couple of amateur guys that have been going around one of the high lakes in Peru, and they're finding mammoth carvings of turtles and frogs and snakes, and there's like 30 or 40 dolomons around there that are obviously man-made.
I will have to research that one. I'm always interested in a lot of the I guess unspoken history of America, because we don't really talk about ancient America, which I think is extremely interesting.
Have you ever read Charles C. Mann, 1491 and 1493 are his two books, pre and post Columbus? Journalist who wrote, and after he wrote those two books, that he pretty much became the de facto history of, literally changed the history. You'll find a lot of the Native American websites now cite his work.
Okay.
Incredible things I learned about.
I just bookmarked him, so he's on my list. I got Peru and Charles Mann.
Yeah.
So thanks.
You watch. You got to keep up with your Randall Carlson, of course, right?
I do. Yeah.
And
Graham Hancock. Graham Hancock.
And one of the guys I just saw, there's a temple under the water in Lake Titicaca, stone temple.
Okay.
Well, Lake Titicaca is like 12,500 feet up in the air. So how does a stone temple that was obviously above water get this?
Right.
So.
And
Yeah.
what did you guys speak on? So in my neighborhood, I live in New Mexico now. They're building a fission or fusion center around energy. And has there been some new discoveries around energy? Or are you just talking about maybe more of the Tesla type of free energy stuff?
Oh no. There's two companies right now. One is Helion Energy, and if you go look them up, it's all explained on their website. They put a press release out last year that they're delivering a fusion generator to Microsoft in Washington State. It's already in construction to power their data center. And this is, and then TAE, which is the company that Trump just merged with. They're the other company that's doing. It's called reverse field confinement.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's not this. All the tokamaks you hear about is every tokamak fusion reactor you see out there is nothing but lies, smoke, mirrors, and money holes. Tokamaks will never work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but this anitronic fusion using the field reverse confinement, which was actually kind of discovered in the 60s, is for real. And you go look at both their websites, and they go into in-depth explaining on how it works. And it's pretty simple. That's the problem with all this fusion technology, and one of the reasons it's been suppressed for so long, I think, is because it's not hard. And if you got a fusion, if you can do that, you've got propulsion, you've got a weapon, you've got energy, all in the same. You figure out one, you figure them all out.
That's interesting. So I was hoping we were moving towards free energy because they seem to have themselves in a conundrum with this whole AI build out. So I was thinking, well, maybe they're just going to release free energy for us, but it doesn't sound like that's going to be an option for us, at least not yet.
No, well, there's a couple underground people that may be, like the ECAT, which I mentioned. That could be a source of free energy, or next to nothing energy.
Yeah.
And there's another company, Neutrino Energy or Neutrino Electronics. I can look at. They've got a pretty much a limitless source of electricity.
Gotcha.
And it's that's a proven done science. It's not even a question about whether it works or not. I mean, they could do the fusion, but I think you're right. They're going to keep it trapped. They're going to
monetizable energy. Yeah.
They're going to drive our prices up and give it away free to the data centers.
Yeah. And one question for you, Aaron, as I watched your podcast earlier, and I've just recently started following you, are you running for office, or what was that preliminary discussion?
I'm exploring a run for U.S. Senate. And if you haven't been following me for a long time, I don't believe in voting, but I've run before. Really long story, but
right.
To raise awareness around technocracy, and I also think it can help raise awareness around our crypto prisoners of war, because the Republicans have lost the House of Representatives, and it's looking like they could even lose the Senate, and this is one of the battleground states. And the lead Republican, Johnny Sununu, is a complete technocrat who voted for the Patriot. He was previously a U.S. Senator, voted for the Patriot Act, voted for Real ID, voted for TARP, then ended up on the World Economic Forum on a finance board, He is exactly the kind of person that we don't need. But I want to make people aware of technocracy. I've been trying to warn people about technocracy for 3 years, and now people are asleep. And so I'm going to use the fact that I could be the decisive vote. I basically could, flip it one way or the other, which I did in 2016.
Oh,
and
nice.
use it as a platform to raise awareness around technocracy, all while going around the state and teaching people how to exit the dollar, exit the healthcare system, and everything else. I mean, my punchline is no one is going to save you. We have to save ourselves. And here's how you can work on increasing your personal sovereignty. That's essentially the campaign, sprinkled in with some education about technocracy and why the duopoly is not really a choice.
Oh, I agree. And it's interesting you don't vote. I kind of, after the, I don't know, maybe 2016 elections with, I think there was Bernie and Hillary Clinton. I went on this whole quest to really understand our election system. And I have not been voting since that time. Once I really understood what the process is, I also went through the process of, researching what sovereignty is, how can you separate yourself from this corporate state, what you can do in private versus public. I'm also studying trust right now. I don't know who all is on this line, but I've been having a little bit of fun over the last 3 years. I would get speeding tickets and I'd win in court because I understand enough about law and that they work under contract. And they would never, and no lawyer would dare to argue with me because I'd motion the court and say, hey, why don't you go through all these things you're charging me with and explain to me basically the nature and cause of the action, and they will not touch it. And so everything gets dismissed. And so I've been slowly doing some things back in corporate jurisdiction, just because I feel like I understand it enough to use it to benefit me, but I don't vote. I will not register to vote because I know what that means. I'm treating a private corporation like a state. So I like to hear that you don't necessarily vote, but you're still interested in the political process. So I'll have to go back and look through. So I don't know if that's part of your podcast series.
Yeah. I've talked about this a lot. So I'm in New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project, which is a movement to get 20,000 pro-liberty people to move to New Hampshire and make New Hampshire the freest place on earth. And I've been a part of that, and I've been heavily involved in the political process, recruiting candidates, running super PACs and everything else, and learned about it really from the inside out. And it's completely rigged. And I have talked about this on several podcasts, but from direct experience. And that's part of the thing that I'm going to explain to people on the campaign as well. And it sounds like you went through in 2016 this process of learning about how the elections work. And it's really about party apparatuses that have data and AI that basically use propaganda.
Right.
It's not at all what people think it is, and most Americans don't even understand how the political system works at all. I think 2/3 can't even identify the 3 branches of government. So we have a situation where it's just it's untenable. And so I do talk about that a lot, which is why for many it's probably like, well, why are you running for office? But it's because I'm trying to raise awareness about technocracy, and a lot of people will focus on, hey, if this race could cost control of the Senate, and this guy's actually done it before, then they kind of have to listen to what I have to say. And so hopefully that's, they'll ignore me as long as they can, which is usually what they do. Yeah. But there comes a point where they can't. And so I view that we have 2016 to raise awareness on these things, because over half of the planet will be on digital ID by 2027. So we're at a point where if we don't stop what's going on and teach people how to exit these systems, then there's a point of no return.
Very cool. I'm quite impressed. So thank you for that.
Say, Mound Builder, you've actually gone to court, and what do you actually argue? Because I've seen these things all the time. I've used constitutional notices and affidavit against my school board and stuff, but I've not actually spoken to somebody who's done it in court.
Yeah, I can send you a doc. Basically, you go through. So here are the things that you cannot do. You cannot. So at the time when I was arguing, I was extreme on the sovereignty thing. I don't have a driver's license. I pay cash for my property, so I don't register my property with the state. So they need to have an interest in something that you're doing, including registering yourself to vote, is telling the state that you recognize them as an authority, a governmental entity. But if you treat the state like a corporate entity that's working on a contract, you then put them in an area where I think the judges are not allowed to disclose the nature and cause of the action. And most of these are, and if you got it, there are two different courts. There is like the Supreme Court, the truly judicial court, the courts that you would go to for something like a traffic citation, or lower courts where they are under the umbrella of Congress. And they work on, they're basically facilitating congressional direction. So whatever Congress has told them to do, they're just administering that. They don't really have a lot of leeway. And they are not allowed to disclose the nature and cause of the action. So that's usually, I can send you a whole document. If you ever get a ticket, I could, even if you signed every document, because fraud eviscerates any kind of, yeah, exactly.
It does. I know. Yeah, you're right. You're dead on.
Yeah. So once you can bring that fraud into their face, because they make a few presumptions that you understand the law, and you understand that they are making an assumption about you knowingly signed a contract without ever seeing the details of it. So you bring all those details up, and all of a sudden they realize, whoops, is it really worth me, going to this battle with this dude? And I gotta, I may lose my job, or, they're like, next ticket. It's not really worth the fight for them. And that's the same for a judge, and that's the same for the district attorney's office. So, and I still walk around with my private plates. What would happen is they would leave one ticket on my record. So the next time a cop would see me, he would see it was dismissed. And he like, well, what happened here? What? And I'm like, dude, it says dismissed, right? And it's like, did they give you a warning? I'm like, what kind of warning are they going to give me? So it's just bizarre. But now they've cleared my whole, nothing shows up at all. And I think they just know, just leave them alone. It's not, it's worth the headache. Yeah.
I've seen people do it on YouTube, and I know a bit about, like, I've used constitutional notices and affidavits to, I got my school board to lift their mask mandate. I got them to drop a lawsuit against the governor, because there's things you can do to stay out of court and force them.
Absolutely, yeah.
By knowing all the constitutional stuff, and then of course, your Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights when you're pulled over by an officer. But I've never actually spoken to somebody who says, "Yep, I've done it."
If you like, I will pull up one of my old. I don't know how often you guys have this kind of talk session, but I can I can pull up one of my motions to the court and just take any personal information off. Anybody could use it. It's the same across the board, so it's very straightforward, and you just break it down, and it's a valuable tool. I do have one additional question for you guys. I don't want to. I see you've been on for 3 hours here, but what do you guys think about Trump's clear violations of international law, constitutional law, and where do you think he's going with this? This is a bizarre situation to me.
I think he's the same as every other president we've had.
Well, as I've been saying, I think that he's pushing a technocratic agenda, and the bigger concern I have is JD Vance, who is coming up, who is
Peter Thiel. Yeah.
No, it's not going to be Vance. It's going to be Rubio.
I don't know about that. I mean, certainly, it'll probably be Vance and Rubio, right? But Vance has Thiel support and Musk support and has been groomed for this. And so much of what Trump is doing is unconstitutional. And this has been a big push that has been coordinated with Project 2025, with the Heritage Foundation and everything else. And it's all an attempt to consolidate power in the executive branch, which is actually an interim step to technocracy. So the idea is, and so that, to me, that's what's going on. The part about it that's frustrating is that he's doing it without opposition, and people that, and I said this earlier in the podcast, that people that were anti Klaus Schwab, anti-WEF are now embracing the very same policies with open arms and not even realizing it.
Not challenging it.
And that to me that's the big problem that we have, is that we have technocracy with zero resistance. And so that's what's happening. Watching people cheer on Venezuela, watching people cheer on Greenland. I mean, it's just like, well, we need Greenland for our national security. Okay, well, what are we, a pirate nation now? How is this different than looting?
Well, that's just it. I mean, he's setting a precedent that if you think about how the world functions, everything works on contract. Commerce, you have to be able to trust the person to honor the contract that you've signed. Trump is saying, no, we're going to negotiate all new contracts, and I'm just going to illegally, unlawfully break every contract that's ever in existence. And I feel like he's doing the same with the Constitution. And it's so overt that I'm just shocked that I don't hear the voice. People are commenting about his personality, how abrasive he is and what he's doing, but it's like he's taking the foundations of what the country was formed under and just tearing it to shreds. I mean, I find it so disturbing that that's not the focus. The legal constructs that he's violating that are, I'm perplexed that there is not much more outrage by it. But granted, I've been spending, several years kind of trying to understand the Constitution, how I can leverage it and check out of the system. But this is, there is no Constitution that means anything. If it's a trust document. It's a contract between the people. So I am at a loss at the moment. So
have you boned up on Title IV? Have you read your flag law?
I haven't.
Yeah, you need to read Title IV. You're going to understand a lot about
what's the significance of Title IV in the flag.
Well, first off, the flag that they got right now, all those gold tassels that we've had since 1999.
Oh, the military jurisdiction. I guess I knew.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. If you actually read the law, I don't want to go into it here, but read the law, you'll understand that all of that. And it doesn't matter whether we don't believe it, they believe it.
Well, they function under. That's why I was telling you about the courts. They function under this whole. And one other thing I do not use a personal address. I pay.
Do you follow my buddy Ethan Dean? I mean, good God, you sound like him the way you're talking.
I will add him to I'll add him. Is he on X?
No, he's not on X. You'll find him on Rumble.
Rumble? Okay, cool. I got Rumble.
Or what is it?
Yeah.
I think he's Oral Science or Oral Health with Cannabis. But he doesn't use an address. He does a lot of the stuff that you're talking about right now.
Yeah. Just little things, but it's just some days I wake up, and I remember the day I woke up and it was over the weekend, and you hear that, oh yeah, he's invaded Venezuela. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Well, all that stuff about Smartmatic and the software coming from Venezuela and all the voting machines is true, right?
I don't really care about, it's
at the SEC.
We have so many problems in our own country. Don't we need?
What I'm saying is all the software in our voting machines.
Oh, yeah.
Was written down in Venezuela to flip votes.
Congress have within their jurisdiction, they are doing things that are perfect, that are pure dishonest and wrong, but they have what they call as plenary powers within their jurisdiction. So all these things we perceive as being, unlawful or whatever, they're actually working within the law. What I find bizarre about Thomas Massey has been making a good point about Trump violating constitutional law, but I think Congress just voted not to put a guard around his ability to start a war. So, I don't know. I don't know anymore. I just kind of give up at this point. And I don't even know if earlier on in this process, I was thinking, do I just leave the country? And I'm like, as I research other countries, I'm like, they don't even have the semblance of a constitution. I'm like, you have zero rights there, and you have no rights there. So, we're kind of here, and we got to fight for this land and this.
Well, we have the illusion of rights, which is why the Constitution's been dead for a long time. And part of what I've talked about on this show are the political prisoners that we have, particularly a lot of the crypto prisoners of war. Ian Freeman, who's in prison for 8 years for selling Bitcoin essentially without a license. And the charge they got him on was conspiracy to commit money laundering, even though they dropped the money laundering thing. And the whole thing was a coordinated attack against anybody who promoted cryptocurrency as an alternative to central bank currencies, or people who developed open source privacy software. Those people are still in prison, and they were targeted for politically motivated reasons. And so the Constitution has been shredded a long time ago. Right. And they can use either interstate commerce or conspiracy or national defense. They have so many different ways that they can flagrantly violate the Constitution. The Constitution has just become a prison for us. It's a set of rules that we believe in that don't apply when the government decides they want to go after us for something. And so it's our own cage, a compliance cage that we've wrapped ourselves around. And so a lot of what you'll hear me talking about is using alternative currency, using alternative healthcare, but just exiting the system, because you can't fight it politically, and you can't fight it in the courts. The courts are a whole other level of corruption, right? I've had some experiences with it, and being in New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project. I mean, I can't tell you how many court hearings I've sat in. We've filmed different court hearings, and part of being in the Free State Project is promoting jury nullification and doing a whole variety of different.
I've seen some of your videos, or not necessarily you, but I followed them years ago, and I didn't know you guys were still around and kicking. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, the Free State Project is big. I mean, a lot of people are politically active at the state level, which it's not my favorite avenue, but. No, we got over 20,000 signers, and you could argue that the Free State Project actually has, in many respects, control of the state legislature. So it's still alive and kicking very much.
Nice.
So I encourage you. Lee is like, should I register my car in New Hampshire? By the way, I just looked that up very quickly. I would try to get out of Connecticut, because Connecticut is not. Is not going to look at that very favorably. And by the way, New Hampshire also requires, if you're going to register in South Dakota or Montana, if you're going to try that approach, because you don't have to be a resident in those states to register a vehicle there. A lot of people that have RVs register their RVs in South Dakota or Montana. And I thought it can't be Wisconsin. Maybe it was Montana. I know people in the Free State Project that I think register their cars in Montana, but I've looked it up in Connecticut, and you're going to have a bad time. They may impound your car and do a whole variety of different things.
I'm personally in New Mexico, and I have not had The only time my vehicle was impounded is when it was registered.
Yeah.
Now that I haven't been registered for about 4 years, and I've also gone to court, for with those specific charges, and I've won
awesome.
every time. So I'll be sure, on the next stream session, I'll bring up just it's good information to have. So if anybody's in a kerfuffle with the court, you just motion the court, get them on record, and then you can use that as a defense if you have to go to litigation. But it usually doesn't go that far. So especially for something like a driving, or speeding or whatever, you get into a different jurisdiction if you actually harm somebody, But when you're talking about there's no injured party, it's all corporate in contracts. So.
That's the kind of the way it is with the, the family courts. They're not courts of record, right?
Right.
And Title 42, which is the law they use to take your children, or they say they take your children. If you read that law, it literally says nothing in this law can be used to take possession of a child over the objection of either parent or guardian. Doesn't even have to be one can say no. If either one of them say no, the state can't interject. The law literally says you can't take the child.
Yeah, that's a whole scary thing of, I think that's parents Patreon or something like that, where the government is the parent or something like that, where you've turned over your rights.
Well, the thing is, it's an unconstitutional court. If you simply bring that up, you're in. First off, you never should submit to family court at all because it's not a court of record. But even if you're in there, any ruling they give, you ask for judicial oversight, and they'll shut it down right away, because then they have to send it to a real court where, of course, your children are your possessions, and they can't take your kids without due process.
Oh, I just took a note on that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Leah writes, what prevents the state from coming for the Zano devs? Well, the Zano devs are not U.S. citizens, and they're not located in the United States. So, but nothing, I mean, ultimately it's open source software. And so again, we're not going to comply our way out of technocracy. There's risk with everything, but they're not doing anything illegal, and they're not U.S. citizens. Now that doesn't, that's usually not an impediment for the U.S. government, but in any event, that's the current state of where that is with Zano, and so the good news is it is open source, and it's been around for a long time, and so so the software exists in open source format regardless of what happens to the devs, and certainly we hope nothing happens to the devs, but this is why it's important that it's an open source project. I will say on that, I'll do an update on Zano. There's a new roadmap and some exciting new developments that are happening this year. They're going to do two major hard forks and upgrades to the system. So I'm getting the technical details on that, and we'll give an update on that probably in the next month.
2 hard forks?
Yep, 2 hard forks.
Damn, it's ambitious.
It's ambitious, but man, these guys have delivered. I mean, it's been around since 2019, and again, the main dev was pre-Monero. Crypto note behind Monero. He's been doing the privacy stuff for 12 years. So, but it's exciting because at the end of it, it's moving towards proof of stake, which in a different way than most people think, and so it's going to be more secure with faster confirmation times and more scalability. So good stuff on that front.
If you could influence them to add a few more features to the asset sets, a little bit along the line of some of the things Ravencoin had, that would be excellent.
Well, again, I think maybe the plan there is just bridge Ravencoin into Zano. I think the point of Zano is for Zano to be the privacy layer, but that can take the positive attributes of other blockchains and just add a privacy component to it. I think that's more the direction that they're going. But
well, that's another thing, because I do have some questions, because I think I mentioned that we're looking at doing some things with involving Zano. But like one of the features of the Ravencoin asset feature is the dividend payout. Now, can you do that on a privacy chain or on a Ravencoin asset wrapped in confidential layer?
Probably.
Maybe with aliases.
With aliases, and you probably could, but I would have to look into that, because you may you could bridge an Ethereum token into Zano. So if you could have a smart contract in Ethereum, and then you could bridge. But I don't know. We'll have to look at
No, we're getting a little bit technical. All right. Well, man, there's still a bunch of stuff we can. If you get a chance, take a look at those 2 Cell articles I gave you yourself, because it's pretty incredible stuff.
Yep, I will.
And
I will make a note of that, and your other data sets will be are being downloaded right now. So hopefully next week those will be in there. And yeah, Mound Builder. So I was doing this podcast twice a week, but I've decided to do it once a week. So we're going to be back Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, and it usually runs about this long. It's usually 3 to 4 hours. So this is pretty much right in the sweet spot. It's not usually just this open Q&A. Usually, there's an interview or a presentation, or I'm displaying something or showing one of these 6 websites that I'm working on, or whatever it happens to be, and then we do a Q&A. But the Q&A, in some respects, I think is the best part, because we learn a lot, and Deadheaded has brought a lot of always brings tons of new information for everybody and new perspectives. So a lot of learning goes on here in the Q&A, including the information you brought today as well.
How do you get Catherine Austin Fitz on here? I'd love to see you interview her.
I know Catherine. I've had conversations. I was going to do a CBDC workshop with her. I think I have to figure out what the context would be for the conversation, but I certainly have contact with her. So so certainly she's on the list of people to talk to. And she had the hijacking Bitcoin person on. We share a lot. She's not a big crypto person. We share a belief that Bitcoin was hijacked and is possibly a scam, but she's not a big crypto person. So that's one area where we haven't seen entirely eye to eye. But
she is big on sovereignty, though. So she, you can always work with people who are.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely would love to.
She's a technocracy person, just like you. So
right.
Yeah.
Did you ever read that 50 things, that article that she did on Solari Report, the 50 things that Trump's doing to bring in the control grid?
Yes, I did. And in fact, I think I have that. It's one of her Solari reports, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think I have that sitting around here somewhere. Yeah. And she did another. Yeah, no, her reports are phenomenal. I think it's great that she puts that material out. So yeah, I'll put her on I'll keep that in mind as I'm formulating which guests to bring on.
Excellent. Well, I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, so next week, 6 p.m. No podcast on Monday, but we'll be 6 p.m. Eastern time, and haven't figured out what the topic's going to be yet. But I'm there's no shortage.
I was going to say, just pick your poison for the. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me, Aaron. Nice meeting you, Mound.
Nice meeting you both. Actually, thank you.
All right, have a good night, guys. Well, I'm gonna play Truth Cascade again on the way out. So hope everybody enjoys that, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Bye.
Started with one photo, one connection, one name. Ran it through Google Images, reverse searching, no shame. Found 3 more photos, found a flight log, found a date. Cross-reference with public records, now I'm up to 8. Tagged it in the Discord, someone found the company, someone else found the offshore account in Belize, someone else found the board members, the donations, the chain. Now we got 47 people mapping the campaign. 1 becomes 2 becomes 10 becomes more. Truth has a network effect we can't ignore. Every connection reveals 10 more doors. This is the cascade, this is the score. Truth cascade, watch it domino. One investigation leads to another, watch it go. Truth cascade, we can't stop the flow. Every cover up connected, now the whole world knows. Cascade, cascade, truth cascade, cascade can't be delayed. Can't be delayed. Metadata embedded in the image. We extracted the GPS from the location, found the property records, found the LLC, found the shell company, found the parent corp, found the CEO. Cross-reference political donations, now we got the quid pro quo. Someone made a spreadsheet, someone made a map, someone made a timeline, someone made a slap, someone made a TikTok thread, 2 million views in a day. Someone made a GitHub repo, organized the array. 1 becomes 5 becomes 50 becomes spread. Truth is exponential once it leaves your head. Every whistleblower empowers 10 more instead. This is the cascade, this is the thread. Truth cascade, watch it domino. One investigation leads to another, watch it go. Truth cascade, we can't stop the flow. Every cover up connected, now the whole world knows. Cascade, cascade, truth cascade, cascade can't be delayed. They try to compartmentalize, separate the scandals, keep the connections hidden, but we're digital vandals, taking down the walls between the separate lives, watching the cascade reveal the enterprise. One truth leads to another, one name leads to another, one dot leads to another, one thread starts the cascade. Truth cascade, watch it domino. One investigation leads to another, watch it go. Truth cascade, we can't stop the flow. Every cover up connected, now the whole world knows. Cascade, truth cascade, it's exponential. One person finds a thread, becomes existential. Truth cascade, it's consequential. Every secret that they bury now is preferential. Cascade, cascade, truth cascade, cascade, cascade can't be delayed. Can't be delayed. Cascade, cascade, truth cascade. Started with 1 photo, ended with 500 connections. That's the cascade. That's the power.